So Tommy's first deal, he got less than he should have for his slot. And I'll never forget, we were at this one point in time, I think it was maybe Tommy's third deal, and we were trying to keep the team together, right? That was part of our thing. We didn't expect people to take home team discounts. We were hopeful that people would want to spread it and keep the winning, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll never forget, Tommy was getting annoyed because he was getting distracted. Not annoyed with anyone. He just wanted to think about ball. One morning he comes up to my office and he knocks and he comes in and he closes the door and he says,
"Welcome to Games with Names. I'm Julian Edelman and they're Jack and Kyler, and we're on a mission to find the greatest game of all time." On today's episode, we're covering the Tuck Rule game. Patriots versus the Raiders, the 2001 Divisional Round game. With legendary NFL GM Scott Pioli.
Our guy.
A legend.
And we get into talking about the game that started the Patriots Dynasty.
one of the most pivotal, important, and genuinely emotional games that I was ever a part of. I'll probably get choked up during this.
When Tom Brady became the guy.
Part of it was not only the quarterback's confidence, but the team's confidence in the quarterback. Tommy was a kid. I mean, this is his first year as a starter.
And some great Ernie Adams stories.
We literally sat next to each other in the coach for those 9 seasons, every single game.
What's watching a whole game like with Ernie?
It's awesome.
This is an instant classic. Let's go. Games with Names is a production of iHeartRadio. January 19th, 2002. The old Foxborough Stadium, Foxborough, Massachusetts.
Driving snow. The Patriots trail the Raiders 13-10 late in the fourth.
Brady drops back. Woodson takes a clean shot. Didn't even see him. Was that a fumble? This is the Snowball game.
That was awesome.
Is that how long we've been going?
Yeah. We're having fun.
Dude.
This is our Boston setup. This is Nuthouse East. And then we do most of them in LA. So if you're ever in LA, you want to come back on, let us know. And we moved it out there because my daughter started kindergarten and she couldn't come out here no more. So I had to go out there. 7 years old now. We got her on travel soccer.
Dude, let me tell you something. I'm gonna put it right in front of the
Not a Vinny Testaverde away. More of a Wes Welker. Vinny, we all know the Vinny story. I didn't even play with the motherfucker. People were talking about his dick.
I was with Vinny in Cleveland, Baltimore, the Jets, and the Patriots.
Jeez, so you know Vinny.
The legend
of Vinny.
The legend of Vinny.
I'll tell you this about the parenting thing. The days are long, man.
Yeah.
But the years are short. Our little Mia, she's our one and only. She was born in 2003. Right before 2 weeks before training camp, my wife induced labor.
All the kids are usually born the same times.
Yeah,
because you gotta time it out right. You don't want it during the season. I
but
had
it
Lily
goes like that, man.
I know.
I'm telling you,
I had her in 16, and she came out week 11 or 12. We just came back from the West Coast, and on a Monday I go up to Bill in his office. I'm like, Bill, I gotta go. I gotta go to LA. My kid's being born, and I was like nervous to tell him.
And when was this?
This was in 16.
But I mean, what time of year?
This
month?
was like November 30th. So that's
okay.
We're late in the season. That's actually like week 14, something like that. But we were in a good stage of our season. And I went out there. He's like, "Are you gonna be back on Wednesday, right?" I'm like, "I'm here, coach. I'm here. Don't worry." Fucking flew out to LA, saw Lily. It was
That's cream season.
cream season. That's cream season right there, boys.
Our text. I was thinking about our text when you thought I was being sarcastic right out of the gate. It takes a while to become a regular citizen.
Oh yeah,
From a mindset standpoint.
a civilian.
Yeah.
It does. And we're talking right now about the transition from being in the league and having the structure, the routine, and everything that. And then, it's kind of like very similar to when a guy exits the military. You get institutionalized with everything that you've been taught or you've been going through for, for me, it was 15 plus years. For some guys in the upper divisions, where Scott's at, it's 25, 30, 40 plus years. You get out into the real world, it's hard to adjust your life because you're so accustomed to the schedule, the red schedule, like we're joking around, like where to be, but it's rigorous days, but it's what you got to do, and it becomes a routine of yours.
And then there's the triggers, right? There's different things that like, for instance, now I've been out of it a couple of years now, and living on Nantucket in the summertime.
That's a flex.
There's a smell. There's a smell. The hedge starts flowering, and there's a smell, and that smell was always like, oh my gosh,
spring.
No, training camp. But you mentioned your life and that cadence that happens. That started long ago. So it's even before the NFL. Yeah. As disciplined as you were, and as hard as you worked, there's just this lifestyle and these routines that you get used to. And in talking to a lot of people from the military, it's a real mind screw.
It is. For us, it really started when I was 8. When you go to school, you come home, you eat, you do homework, you go to football practice.
Well, some of us did homework.
You had to. Some
God, Kent State.
Yeah. We didn't much there. But I'm just saying, as a young kid, now that school was replaced with football school, because that's what you do when you go to work. You're sitting in meetings for 3.5 hours before you even get on the field, and it's the same routine. So
yeah, and then there's the daily cycle, there's the weekly cycle, there's the in season, off season.
Oh yeah,
there's this cadence of life and this routine.
I was just talking to Kyler about that, exactly what you said when we were.
You were talking about the smell. Literally this morning.
This morning, I go, it was like clockwork when the fans left training camp, and it was just that 53-man roster. You felt the chill in the air. You felt the season change immediotely.
Absolutely.
And I felt it a little bit out there this morning. It wasn't quite humid. You still feel that that's football
and there's
season.
A smell, right? There's certain things that bloom in certain areas, and it's all really familiar. That's how I was talking about, like the hedge at home. It's like, I remember God, it's time to leave my family.
Yeah.
And it triggers. It's the smell of the grass in the morning when it's been cut and it's wet. It smells different than any grass any time of the year.
It's kind of like the smell if you're in a tight meeting room and Bill goes up in there with no fucking socks on and just shoes, and he takes his shoes off and it smells ratchet. That's kind of that. Oh, it's football season. It's football season. Yeah. And then he takes those fingers and he puts them in the communal fucking nuts. Like our air.
The edible nuts.
Yes. Yeah, the edible nuts. But we used to have scoopers, and Bill would be sitting there and just putting his hands in there, and I'm just watching it. You're not going to say a word about it, but thinking like, man, I'm not eating there for a while. All right, let's start this thing. Welcome to Games with Names. Today we are looking at the Tuck Rule game, 2001 AFC Divisional Round game.
Whoa. The Tuck Rule game?
The Tuck Rule game.
It's not it's the Snowball.
See,
here's the thing. This game's...
And we're talking with Scott Pioli. Welcome to the show.
I saw it. I'm like, wait a second here. Here's the deal. Games with names, right? This is a game with 2 names.
2 names.
If you live in New England or are a Patriots fan, or if
Snowball.
you're a member of the tribe,
yeah,
it's the Snowball.
I know.
Everybody else outside of here, all the haters, call it the Tuck Rule game.
You know what?
This is a game with 2 names.
I love that you brought this up, because later on, spoiler, we're gonna name the game officially, and then we're gonna score the game. And we developed that segment with this game in mind. And then as we've done upwards of 70 games now, most of them either don't have a game or it's clearly that one. So like this idea of scoring the game it's not really useful and it's outdated. But for this one, it matters, and I'm pumped about it.
Let's go, baby.
See, you're a member of the tribe. You can't call it the Tuck Rule.
You know what's crazy though? At this time in my life in 2001,
oh boy, here we go.
I was dating Jerry Rice's daughter.
Come on.
Jerry goes to the Raiders.
Heck yeah.
And he balled out in this game a little bit. He had a couple big time third downs and big plays in the elements that they were playing in.
And the week before.
And the week
against
before.
The Jets.
And the Jets.
Crushed it.
And so like, and then I got drafted to the Patriots, and I was kind of not in the tribe at the time. So like at this time in my life, I wasn't in this tribe. I was like, I was kind of going for the Raiders.
You're rooting for the Raiders this game?
A little bit.
Well,
Jerry.
Yeah, at the
Jerry
time.
Rice, Bay Area kid.
But how about
But I also love
Jerry
Tom.
Rice and Tim Brown?
And Tim Brown.
And Charles Woodson,
Rich
Eric
Gannon,
Allen?
Rich.
Hey.
Charlie Gardner was one of my favorite running backs because he
Hey.
was a Niner and then he went to the Raiders.
Good hands.
Great. He was
Oh,
a great. He was a small 3-down back.
Yeah.
But he used to plug away in between the tackles for as small as he was. He had some big ass games.
Yeah.
I love Charlie Gardner.
But Rich Gannon, too. Let me
This
tell you
is the
something.
resurgence.
Rich Gannon is one of the most underrated, really, really good quarterbacks that the NFL has seen. And he had a streak and he had a run of, and just, he was like dialed in, focused. He could have been one of us.
He could have.
He could have been one of us.
I got to meet Rich at the Raiders training camp last year, and he was such a good dude. He's called a lot of our games because he does TV. And I think his completion percentage this year, wasn't it like 70% or something?
It was ridiculous.
He was the first to like do the arm angle stuff. Like Rich Gannon would always drop his arm angle and hit that little flat route, no looks and stuff. And it was that resurgent second career. Because where was he before? He was with
he was Minnesota. He was the Raiders. But here's the thing. Coming out, he was at the University of Delaware. Tubby Raymond,
Blue Hens.
the fighting Blue Hens, absolutely. And wing T guy.
Yeah.
And they ran. So when he was coming out, people weren't sure if he was actually a quarterback because the offense that they ran, they didn't know if he could throw.
Yeah.
But he was
athletic.
Yeah, but you're right. That change in the angle or the slot or whatever people call it.
So I mean, we talk about it now because of Patrick Mahomes, Matt Stafford, all these guys that are doing it. Burrow even does it sometimes. I mean, the guy that I remember doing it when I was a kid was Rich Gannon.
He did it.
And these couple years, and we'll get into the teams more, but these few years of these Raiders teams were so fun to watch. You know, when they were stomping at that door, because as much as anyone wants to say anything, the league is better when the Raiders are good.
Absolutely.
Because it's a pillar organization, especially with the history of Al Davis and all of that they've done and how he even got the team. And we used to have the breakdowns from Bill about the organizations the week when we were playing them. So I know a lot about Al Davis because we'd have the fucking, this guy sued the league. He did it, you know what I mean? So
Mr. Davis he's one of those people that we could tell Al Davis stories all day.
and we
as
will
a matter of fact,
when we get into the Raiders.
and when we get into the Raiders, because we'll also remember the just do your job story.
Yeah. That's Al Davis.
And I'll tell you how that
Just
became.
win, baby. Just win, baby. All right, let's
Hold on. Let's tell that story. You got the story about
Oh,
how
I'm going to give you the whole.
yeah.
Here's the deal. Just do your job. So this is 1981. I think it is Parcells' first year as the head coach of the New York Giants. Al Davis had actually coached Parcells 100 years ago in some all-star game when Parcells was at Wichita State. And Parcells and Mr. Davis were really close. And Mr. Davis was one of his mentors. And at the end of the season, the Giants sucked his first year. And Parcells is thinking he's going to get fired. He's pissed off at the GM and the player personnel department. And he's talking to Mr. Davis. And I know this story firsthand from Parcells. Parcells says that he's complaining to Mr. Davis. We don't have this. We don't have that. These players suck. I need, I got to redo this roster. And he said, Mr. Davis interrupted him and says, hey, hang on a second. He goes, outside your office, you got anything on the wall? I was like, yeah. He goes, what's it say? He says, well, it's a nameplate. It's got my name on it. He goes, what does it say under that? He goes, head coach. And he said, Mr. Davis leans forward and goes, that's right. The head coach. Shut the F up and just do your job. Your job isn't to find players. Your job is to put the roster together. Parcells said he went off on him. And fast forward a couple of years later, Parcells, we're at the Jets. Parcells' mother effed me when I was asking about, I was the pro personnel director and I wanted to do some college scouting. He went off on me, told me to just do my job. Belichick gets the just do your job thing from Parcells. Next thing you know, it's on T-shirts. That's where the whole
Al Davis.
do your job as Mr. Davis.
Wow.
So amazing.
The connection between this game, the Patriots organization. What's the word? Is serendipity? Kismet? I'm not a word guy.
Intertwined.
Not a word guy. Football guy. Not a word guy.
Like, there's
layers to it.
There's so many. This game was unexpected.
Unexpected, but we'll get
For
into
sure.
it. We got to start the show off because
All right, sorry. I thought we were rolling.
We're rolling. No, it's rolling, but we just got a couple things we got to get into.
Jules, a big structure guy.
Yeah, structure. I like structure.
Well, shocking. Shocking.
No, the first question we always ask our guests is, in one sentence, why'd you pick this game?
Oh, I picked this game for a number of reasons. One sentence.
One sentence.
Because it's one of the most pivotal, important, and genuinely emotional games that I was ever a part of. Still to this day, I'll probably get choked up during this.
Yeah.
During the run that started the Patriots, because within this game, there's so many things that are truly about what we were and became.
Yeah. Yeah. Is this the greatest game of all time?
Oh, I'm not an all-time guy. I'm not a believer in that whole thing of all time because there's so many different variables and dynamics, whether it's the greatest player of all time, the greatest quarterback of all time, all that stuff. It's kind of like there's too many variables. It's certainly one of the best. I mean, if you're on our side.
The boat, it's the best of all time?
Ooh.
Did we just create something?
Is this the boat game of all time?
Stole that from Blake Bortles.
Oh,
Yeah, Blake Bortles.
all right. Didn't anticipate talking about Bortles on the pod today.
No, I mean, this is such a pivotal game for the National Football League. I mean, this literally rewrote history. It rewrote expectations for organizations. We're seeing that right now with the Chiefs. The Chiefs are doing what they're doing right now, and they're chasing something, and they think it's possible because of this specific game.
It started something really cool. I mean, they had to redefine rules.
Redefine rules.
There were so many things that happened, and it was, again, it goes back to it was big for the league. It was big for this team and this franchise,
This region.
but and it really capsulized all the stuff that was part of the program, where it was situational football. It was, fighting to the finish, teammates taking care. I mean, part of this is
Adjusting to adjustments.
Yeah.
Adversity, overcoming something, doing your job. Like, everything was in it.
Troy Brown fumbles 2 punt returns, and who recovers them both?
Izzo.
Izzo.
Fucking Izzo.
Right, a guy who we had signed as a free agent that year, one of the 23 guys we signed as free agents that year.
Yeah. He was a pivotal part of those teams. He was a special teams captain. Matthew Slater, to this day, talks about how good Larry Izzo is. And that's Matthew Slater, who's going to be considered one of the best teamers of all time.
Yes.
And
I'm glad you didn't go GOAT there, because he's one of the best of all time.
Yeah,
We don't like goats. We
don't. There's
nuance.
only one goat. There's 2 goats, actually.
There's 2 goats.
Two goats. What's life looking like right now?
Oh, life looks very different. We live 9 months out of the year on Nantucket after I left the Falcons in 2019. Started doing TV.
Yeah. Good. You're doing good on there, too.
Thank you. But here's what I love about it is because being on the other side for so many years and seeing what is said in the media and how narratives can impact not only the individuals but the individuals' families
And careers.
and so when I signed up, it was really cool because I want to bring light to things, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's enough people that are a lot smarter than me that can criticize people and talk about what they would do, even though they've never done it. I'm thankful I have this platform to elevate people that I care about, people that I respect and that I work with. So it's really cool, and it keeps me near ball. Like going to training camps this year, you talk about that whole thing, Jules. You become a part of this life and this world, and you get separated from it, and it's darkness can creep in, man.
Yeah. It can. I mean, when you take someone out of their feng shui,
Yeah.
You know, your feng shui for so long has been football. Things are crazy, you know.
So I get to do that and mentor a bunch of some of the young guys that I hired as like entry level folks, like Ryan Poles and Adam Peters and Monty Ossenfort, who are in roles now where I can serve them. Guys like Shane Waldron, who's now, just
Shane
all
was
these.
with us in 2009.
Yeah, Shane was a van driver.
Yeah,
I
remember. I think he picked me up.
Yeah, he may have. And, so there's that. And then I'm also, doing some consulting work for the NFL, for the league office. They have me working in, with the HBCUs. They have me working in the International Player Pathway Program. And then I do work for colleges and universities. It's a good life now because I'm actually back to, you get through this certain time in life where you're chasing the rings, literally. And then sometimes you get off path where that's not necessarily what I got into it. I wanted to give back to it what I got out of it, which was helping grow up. So I'm serving now.
I get that. Like when you're in the grind of football, a lot of things you don't really get to pay attention to. You know what I mean? And you're literally like I felt like a mercenary. I mean, football season, my family, my friends, everyone understood what mindset I was in. So like they were awesome because they allowed me to not be able to talk to them. And, I was in a different part of my life, and it would be a lot harder if I had my kid, and I had my kid later in my career. But at the early part of I could have never had a kid or a family because you're so mentally locked in to the grind of a season, making a team, earning a role, trying to make your role better. There's always a stress on a person that's involved in pro sport, no matter where you are in your career. If you're a guy trying to make the team, you're trying to make the team. If you're a guy trying to make a role, you're trying to make a role. If you're Tom Brady, you're chasing goats. And everyone's got these stresses that you have where you look back and it's been 6-7 years, like, oh shit. It's crazy. Time flies when you're in that grind because once you get to the top, I always tell this to everyone, you win a Super Bowl. I was my most sad after a Super Bowl because you knew how hard it was going to be to reinvent yourself in the offseason, to get back to that high that you're feeling for that one night, 2 night, 3 nights, and then you go on win another one, and then it's like, oh, it's going to be even fucking harder. Like it was just every year it was turn the page, Bob Seger, we got to go. It doesn't matter what happened. It's only getting harder. Everyone's designing their team to beat you. You have another year of film on you. So it's just a grind. And
So I want to hit you back with something on that, though. Yeah. Like you mentioned at the beginning of that, your family, your friends, the people that loved you the most and you loved the most, they all understood, right? Yeah. Because they knew your maniacal self, and you were not alone.
Yeah, no, it's a lot.
And part of what I've talked about here is this. And again, I don't mean, I've talked about this life and this lifestyle, and particularly the way that we did it. Yeah. Again, including Parcells said one time that this is like a narcotic, and this is like a drug, man. And we end up having people around us because we do stuff that's really dysfunctional. The number of weddings that I missed, the number of births that I missed, the number of holidays. And everyone just said, oh, that's part of the lifestyle. That's part of it. And people that love you actually start becoming enablers. And I come from a family of addicts. Yeah. So I understand.
Got a couple
of the different
in my family.
Yeah, it's same. And unfortunately I lost my sister to addiction last year. Yeah. But I say that because there's this life and this lifestyle that is really, in certain ways, it's so healthy. But I'm like looking at your eyes as you're sitting there telling that story, man. There's like this, it gets us, man. And then the people around us, like, oh, it's okay that you missed that wedding. Oh, it's okay. One of the things I swear, as I was, when we had our daughter, my wife and I were both 38 at the time, so we were, late to get married, and because I was married to the game first, and
you kind of married the game too. Parcells' daughter. Oh,
you going there? Oh, that's a long story. I met her at work, and she actually was working with my sister.
Yeah.
For years before, but anyway, like I'll never forget thinking, okay, I'm going to normalize myself. There's things there's certain things I'm not going to miss. Well, I'm going to make sure that Mia's first day of school, I'm going to take her to school, kindergarten. We're going to take her, over and rent them. And I had all these ideas. And this game grabs you at the moment. You know what happened the night before her first day of school, where I was going to be a good dad. The three of us were going to go to school. Spygate. Guess who didn't take little Mia to first day of school at kindergarten?
Yeah. That's tough.
This game, it sucks you in, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we find reasons to justify the behaviors. Anyway, I don't mean to head down, but it's crazy.
True.
And then you long for it when it's gone.
You want it. Yeah. You always want what you can't have.
Yeah. And the Super Bowl thing, man. It's never enough. Man.
It's never enough.
It's like a drug.
It is. And it's almost, you hear, I don't know if I like winning as much as I hate losing. I just
you can relate to that, right?
No, you said that?
I've heard it before.
Yeah, I feel I live that. Like
I live that.
I don't
too.
like winning as much as I just hate losing. Like you love winning, yeah. Winning's fun, but it's only a short fun. But the loss, I still think 2016, I still think about the third down out of halftime drop. Not the fucking catch. Everyone asks about the catch. I think about being the rah-rah guy in the locker room. This is gonna be a hell of a story, and dropping the fucking third down where I could have kept it going.
You know where I was working during that game, right?
Where were you working on that game?
Oh boy.
Really? We're going here this early?
You brought it up.
This early? No, he brought it up.
No, you know where you're working. You know where else you're working?
I was working for the Falcons.
I know exactly where you were working. I know
Blew up in my mouth, Jules.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Good for you, though, huh?
Not everyone can be winners. No, but tell us about another team that you're associated with this new women's soccer league that's coming here to Boston.
Right there.
Oh, what is it?
Great
NWSL Boston, man. We have not given the team yet.
No
team
name?
name yet.
No name?
Some people know it. It's going to be announced coming very soon.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah. It's there's this Jennifer Epstein, who's the managing partner. It's owned by three women. And it's just NWSL, as you know, is booming. I've always been a huge women's soccer fan. Even before the 99ers won the World Cup. So it was
we had Brandy Chastain to talk about that game on here.
Did you? I have to watch that.
She's awesome. We love Brandy.
Yeah.
She's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And shout out to Santa Monica Surf. That's my little daughter's team. We got to get you guys going. Let's go.
Shout out.
Big game. They had a big game. Big tourney last week. Let's keep it going. Effort and attitude.
Wow.
Effort and attitude.
See, this is parenting from far away. I love it.
Effort and attitude.
I can't be at home, but hey.
Effort and attitude. You can't teach that. The skills will come.
Absolutely. So this, so it was an opportunity. It's mostly the entire ownership group is women, and then I was connected with Jessica Berman, who was the commissioner of the league, is a dear friend from years ago. Connected me with Jessica Gelman. I don't know if you remember Jessica, who was with us at the Patriots beginning in 2002.
Yeah.
Very involved in soccer. Anyway, so I've always been, my two older sisters, both played soccer, loved women's soccer. And
studs.
I
was just at these little, I'm talking about my daughter, but I go and watch these little girls, and I put her on this one team, and just to see the developmental of these little girls reminded me of my Pop Warner teams. And these little girls are studs. I mean, they're better than me. I can't control the ball like some of these little girls. And the way they coach them, the way it's teaching these little girls communication, it's teaching them, accountability, all the things I took from football. I'm seeing, what they're learning in soccer, which is so pivotal for these younger kids of this generation to play a team sport, so you can learn that you need to rely on other people, and if you don't do your job, you're going to be embarrassed by your teammates who are doing their job. So there's all these little things that you get to experience in team sport. I love soccer for girls.
Yeah, team sports, soccer, lacrosse. I'm all about the team sports. And again, this is the thing, growing up, my sisters, they were mid-late 70s, early 80s. Title IX was a thing, but it wasn't really a thing. I mean, it's still not what it's supposed to be. And why shouldn't young girls have the same opportunities 100%. To play in team sports, to be athletes, to do? And this is, it's part of, I'm on the Women's Sports Foundation. These are all things that I believe in. I've a couple of years ago with the Women's World Cup that was in France.
Yeah.
My wife, daughter, and I were over there. We
lost, didn't we?
Oh, but we won. We beat France in Paris, and my wife and daughter and I were at that game.
How was it?
Oh, dude, it was. I thought I loved soccer and women's soccer, and after that, it was next level, man. It was
Honestly,
it was the best non-football experience, live sport experience I've ever had.
I tell you right now, when I watch women's sports, it's almost like they're more fundamentally sound and they stay within the system and the scheme better than what men do.
I completely agree with you.
You know what I mean? Like it's if you want to install an offense or something, you should just have women do it because it's going to be exactly how it's supposed to be ran. And the fundamentals are always going to be crazy strong.
It's in basketball too. So we were fortunate when we were in KC. Our daughter played basketball at that point in time, and every year they used to have the Big 12 championship, not in the Sprint Center. They had it in the old auditorium in Kansas City that they still have. It's all Art Deco. It's had more Final Fours than any facility in the history. And those were the Brittany Griner years.
Yeah.
So we got to see Baylor up there, and our daughter was playing.
Duncan.
I tell you, it was. But talk about fundamentals. And Kim Mulkey was the head coach of Baylor basketball at the time. Their fundamentals, the passing, there's just
spacing,
something different. Yeah, and they're not 5 steps.
It's fucking true. Girls, listen. Guys over here, I'm gonna get this one. You know, they try to bring in their athleticism. But let's transition this to you were talking about training camps. I saw you went to the Patriots training camp.
Yeah.
Now, what are your thoughts on Jerod Mayo? When you were part of drafting Jerod Mayo.
That was my last draft. Him, Jerod, and Matthew Slater.
Slater, two of some of the best football guys I know, that like locker room guys, leader guys. Now, when you drafted a guy like Jerod, could you tell that he had head coaching qualities, or
he had qualities, but you're not thinking at that point in time. But the qualities that he had in terms of his intelligence, his vision, his work ethic. He had to learn some new work habits, but his communication, his ability to communicate, he had a lot of the tools, the skills, and the qualities of someone that would, could become a head coach. Did I think that? I don't think any of us were thinking, you know how it is in that moment. You're thinking about, hey, as long as he can get the other 10 guys lined up on defense and communicate the coverage
and that's what the middle linebacker does in our, a lot of our system. That's quarterback of the defense. So the communicating is probably key. And that's what we've been hearing out of camps, that he's a great communicator with, the players. He's got players' perspective, but he also has, a lot of the influence of what he was in. So I think it's going to be awesome. What do you think about this Drake May situation? So, my take on it is, if you don't have the right guys around him to let him flourish, unless he's significantly better than Jacoby, which I don't know because I'm not in practice. I can't see how he's calling mic points. I can't see how he's in the huddle. I can't see how he's, digesting defenses that are harder than what they're seeing in the preseason. I can't see that. But once you put him in, you can't pull him.
Right, exactly. So when you better measure 100 times and cut once. When you go to that point where he's going to go, because then if you're pulling him, then it becomes a mind screw.
I know, but then right now they get the media behind him right now because of the preseason. He was 10 for 13, and it's so maybe they feel that rush. It depends on how confident.
But Jules, again, one of the most important things about the preseason is it's a chance to evaluate players. When you evaluate players, you always have to look at things that you're not seeing as a fan views it. And that's, I don't say that to be offensive in any way. Did they get the right play call? Did they get the check or miss the check at the line of scrimmage? Did they know where the mic was? As you were saying, did they know that when there was something different happening that they needed to check out of the play that was called and go to another play? There's all those little details that matter. Do they know how to call the protection or help change a protection in order to give themselves more time? And there's all these little details that, you know,
Can he call the goddamn play?
exactly.
I mean-
in a huddle, there's so many quarterbacks coming in now, and I'm not sounding like this old guy, get off my lawn, but there's a lot of quarterbacks. They just hold up signs on the sideline, and everyone sees the play, and everyone goes there. You have to come into a huddle and talk to 10 other dudes that are grown men.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on out there, and it's under pressure. It's not just how smart you know. The other thing is when you're evaluating, you have to consider the competition. So when he was in games, how good was the competition that he was playing against? Because that has something to do with your ability to make decisions. And as you know,
Vanilla looks, and you're playing against 2s and 3s. So he did what you want him to do in the
Correct.
preseason. You need to see execution. 10 for 13 that's what you want to see from your young quarterback. But he's not seeing a will weak safety, exotic blitz, an exotic front. He's seeing literally 4 guys down, you know, your regular base fronts or your nickel fronts, which is it's completely different than when a team is going to sit there and study everything that kid hasn't seen, and they're going to throw the whole kitchen sink at him until they see it's blocked. You know what I mean?
they know your kryptonite. No one's game planning in preseason games.
No one's game.
And you're going to get game planned against, and that's one of the big things. And that's when you look for people's kryptonite, and then you go after it.
I'm excited to see what this Polk and Robinson, who's the other receiver, or for the Pats, Baker and
Javon Baker from Central Florida.
and who
Jalen Polk out of
Polk.
Washington.
I'm excited. They've been making some decent plays. I've heard some good stuff going on with them. You just got to find some people to throw the ball to.
And him to throw the ball. And you get this more than anybody. When you're developing a quarterback, and this game that we're going to talk about is all about these kind of things. Part of the quarterback's development is, you know, you can't give him everything and expect him to be throwing down the field the whole time. You know, Tommy had that one. You know, he had a year plus 3 games to sit the bench. And then when we brought him in, you know, the whole thing about Brady those first couple of years, but he can't throw the deep ball. But he can't throw the deep ball. We didn't ask him to.
Yeah.
Charlie Weiss, play calling becomes a critical part of player development. Tommy was doing everything short and sideways. The number of screens we ran, Charlie Weiss was one of the best screen coaches I've ever been around.
Sidewalk.
Thank you. Yes.
Sidewalk.
Unbelievable.
Unreal.
And Tommy, the number of short, sideways, underneath, his use of the slot,
Yeah.
his use of the tight end, his use of the back, we're going to see it here later.
Yeah. He takes what he gives you. I mean, if you got an open guy, give you a look pass. He just wants to, keep the offense moving forward, especially at this point of his career. Let's jump back into time. Let's go back to January 19th, 2002. That's when this game took place. 2001 season, but 2002. That always messes me up.
Always.
Every time. And then college football doesn't do it. Like college football, like the bowl games are the year that it's played in, even though it's not the same.
I know,
It's a
and
mess.
This is the stuff that keeps us up at
It's
night
the
at
worst.
HQ.
Number 1 movie was A Beautiful Mind. Great movie.
Great movie.
John Nash, baby.
Yeah, it was a great movie. You Got It Bad by Usher was the number 1 song. Orange County, the OC.
Jack Black.
Or the movie.
The movie.
Yeah.
With Hanks'
Yeah.
son.
Yep.
Not the Chet one.
Not Chet.
Not
Shout out
Chet.
Chet.
How High. Eminem
that?
release. Are you an Eminem fan?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. But here's the thing, though. The movies and TV shows,
Mm-hmm.
forget it. I went through like a 30-year period, 20-year period.
No movies, no period.
My family clowns me about it. I got done and I was, people say, what was your favorite TV show? I'm like, MASH was a good show. It's kind of, remember Happy Days? Yeah.
I do.
It's because like once I started this business, when I got done, I've watched like Seinfeld and all these. That was a funny show. I didn't see it until like 2020. I mean, that was a funny
That's
show.
how you know you're a football guy, baby.
Yeah.
And we're all-
Music, I was always on top of because the players
Yeah.
always had what was current, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. You're always up on the music.
The music.
Bears
You're
were
locked
saying
in.
he used to run the playlist for practice. Is that true?
Yeah.
Bears?
Oh, yeah.
How's his
See,
music?
but again, remember when I was there, we were that was pre-playing music at practice.
Yeah.
That came later on. Yeah. Yeah. I'm old, man.
That must have been a wild day the first day music got introduced at practice.
When I was there, it was always there. It'd be loud as fuck. You couldn't hear anything. You'd be
Right, that
Thinking
started
about
happening right when I was at, because my last year was the '08 season, and
Yeah.
you came in 09.
in 09.
And that was my first year in Kansas City.
Yeah.
But I remember, I'm going to say this. So I was there for the December draft meetings
Yeah.
because I was running the December draft meetings. There's no coaches involved, and the scouts are all coming in, and and there was a scout that talked about this quarterback from Kent State. And again, I know I've heard some stories, but I know when the name was brought up in Patriots draft meetings, Jim Nagy, who is the executive director of the Senior Bowl, brought your name up. I don't know what this guy is, but he's something.
Yeah.
Talking about you, man.
He's something, all right.
You know,
No, it was
that was
Glaze.
I remember,
that was Jim's area. He was our Midwest area scout out there.
yeah. I don't remember him, but yeah, I just remember hiring my agent Don Yee.
The best.
He's the best.
And I'm going to tell you, I love Don Yee. I love and respect Don Yee and Steve Dubin as much as any agents in the industry.
They're straight shooters.
100%.
And they just let you do what you're gonna do, and then they're not gonna force anything. They're not gonna.
And they know their players, and they know what their players want. They know what's important to their players. And it's funny because Don and I had some interesting and some complicated conversations sometimes. Because Brady, we'll talk about Brady's deal because I didn't get to do your deals. So Brady's first deal was, the rookie contract, and I'll say this. Unfortunately, we were doing business at that point in time, not thinking long-term and relationships. It was a very bottom line way of doing things. And it was something Bill and I weren't comfortable with. And we, so Tommy's first deal, he got less than he should have for his slot. There wasn't slotting back then, but everyone knew what the slot was. It wasn't called the slot. And we broke his shoes a little bit, unfortunately. The people that were doing the contracts at that time. And then when it came time for Tommy's next deal, I was doing the next deal and then the next deal. And I'll never forget, we were at this one point in time, I think it was maybe Tommy's third deal, it might have been. And Don and I weren't making progress. And we were trying to keep the team together, right? That was part of our thing. We didn't expect people to take home team discounts. We were hopeful that people would want to spread it and keep the winning because we felt high tides raise all boats, and the more that we won, there was all these other opportunities, marketing, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll never forget, Don and I couldn't get anywhere, and Tommy was getting annoyed because he was getting distracted. Not annoyed with anyone. He just wanted to think about ball. And I'll never forget, one morning he comes up to my office and he knocks and he comes in and he closes the door and he says, "Hey, can we talk about this contract?" I'm like, "Tommy, we can't have a negotiation. That's against the rules. We're not allowed." He goes, "Listen, we got to talk." But he and I had a really good and close relationship. And he said, "Where are you guys at?" So I told him where we were at, told him where you guys are at. And he says, "What's the drop dead number?" I'm saying, "Tommy, we can't have this conversation. I got to talk to Don about this." And I'll never forget, it was the deal when he signed. It was I want to say it was the 6-year, $10 million a year deal.
Yeah.
Think about that. 6 years, 60 million. It was like, and I'll never forget, I said, that's probably our choke point. But we're playing this game, Don and I, it's not a game. I shouldn't call it that. We're having this negotiation where one team's low, one side's low, one team's high, and you're trying to find the middle spot. I'll never forget, Tommy looks at me, shakes his head, looks away, goes, "If I can't live the rest of my life off of $60 million and my family," he says, "I've got problems." He's like, "Get Don on the phone." I'm like, "Tommy, we can't do this." He says, "Get him on the phone." We got on the phone and put it on speaker. And Tommy goes, "Hey, Don, it's Tom." He goes, "Hey, how you doing today?" He goes, and Don's all upbeat. And he goes, "I got you on speakerphone. I'm in Scott's office." Dead silence. Dead silence. He goes, and Don's like, "What are you doing there?" He's like, "Don, listen, man, this is ridiculous." He said, I'm talking to Scott, and I'm like sweating because it wasn't a negotiation.
Yeah.
He was just asking. And anyway, Tommy's like, "Listen, you guys just get this done." And I'm bringing this story up because I go back to Don. Don and Steve could have made so much more money
Yeah.
if they didn't do what their client wanted. And Don and Steve have left money on the table year after year after year after year by doing what their clients wanted and maybe not trying to talk their clients into something that would pay them greater 3%. Anyway, I don't mean to make that a long story, but it's just, I think the world of Don Yee.
Yeah, Don Yee's, we call him the Dragon, bro. He's just calm, cool, and collect.
The Dragon.
The Dragon. You can't call him that.
You can't
No.
No.
That's what Tommy told me to call, and I wasn't going to go there, though.
Yeah, there's only a select few that can call him Dragon.
That's like in Step Brothers when they meet each other the first time. Remember that? Dale, he's like, "You can call me Dragon."
Great movie, by the way.
Great movie.
Did you watch that?
All-timer.
Did you watch that last week?
Let's get back in the sports world. 2001, 2002 Super Bowl champs, Patriots. Go on, do it after this. That was a good one.
Nice.
Kurt Warner, NFL MVP. Man, from grocery bagger to MVP.
How about that?
That was crazy. National champions were the Miami Hurricanes. Was that Ken Dorsey and McGahee?
Najee Davenport.
Those I used to love those teams. Heisman Trophy winner Eric Crouch out of Nebraska.
How about that?
Winter Olympics were in Salt Lake City.
They had
Mike-
Olympics that year?
Yeah,
See, so I mean,
yeah.
I saw all the Olympics this year.
Yeah, but the Olympics have gotten. I think
yes.
the ratings of the Olympics have gotten a lot better.
Social media helps it a lot.
Way more because you can only watch it on one network.
Yeah.
Michael Vick was drafted one overall. Patriots drafted Richard Seymour.
Yes.
Hall of Famer Richard
Bulldog.
Seymour.
Do you know who he drafted right after Richard Seymour?
Who?
Matt Light.
Another
Second round.
a steal.
What's he taking
really.
from? What's he stealing from you? Do you know what he's stolen from you? Has he stolen anything from you? We're still trying to
Hey,
find
that
out what he
dude is
stole
a
from us.
handful.
You got any Matt Light stories?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. She called me one time with this voice throw thing from the Pro Bowl.
Wait, the voice thing. So
Where he could like change his
Oh
voice.
my gosh.
And left me a message
what
that
did
he
he say?
was Belichick. Oh, dude, it was just like he's such a tool sometimes. I
Great way to put it.
But I tell you, the things I'll tell you what. So I saw both saw him play live at the University of Kentucky the day before. I want to say we were playing in Indianapolis that weekend. So that was one of my things. When we had road games, I would always try to go out and do a live game the day before, get into the hotel for team meeting at the night. Saw Seymour and Stroud was the other guy. They were coming out the same year. They were both first round picks. Richard Seymour, when I saw him in person down on the field in pregame, he would do this thing after they did the one-on-ones and all their stuff. He would go by himself against the uprights, the goalpost, and the padded part, and do this SWAT swim thing on it and SWAT rip. I learned from Steve Belichick, Bill's dad, the original Steve Belichick, about one of the things in scouting. You have to use your eyes and your ears, and he was teaching me how to listen to hear punters and quarterbacks. You could hear the ball leave their fingertips. Stand behind him, be silent, close your eyes. Punters, you could hear punters and kickers hit the ball. One of the other things in doing that I learned was sometimes you can hear explosion. And you got all these devices that measure it. When Richard Seymour hit that padded upright, it was a sound like a good golf hit or a good baseball hit. It was like the sound. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was out at Purdue the year Matt Light for a practice. Drew Brees was the quarterback.
Yeah.
They went to the Rose Bowl. Matt Light was, energy, man.
Energy, but Matt Light for his position was like really undersized, and to have the career he had, like he's a big man. Don't get me wrong, but he was short for a tackle. To have that, you had to be like a technician with your fundamentals, and that's what Matt Light was.
100%. And people had him that said that he was going to be a guard in the NFL. He could play tackle because here's the thing. He was so smart. It's like anything, right? If you have some physical limitations, you find other ways you figure it out.
Yeah.
Whether it's, and he height-wise, he was shorter than the norm.
Yeah.
Length-wise, shorter than the norm. People are like, oh, they're going to get the edge on him. But he was so smart. He was so good. Were there times he was on the edge? But he was a heck of a football player.
One of the best.
But here's the other thing about the whole Patriot thing that people don't understand. When you have players with limitations, That's where great coaching comes in.
Yeah.
And yes, Bill's, I will say, the greatest coach of all time, head coach of all time. But Charlie Weiss, Dante Scarnecchia, those, and in terms of protection and knowing who and when to protect based on matchups and situations and circumstances, and then having a quarterback that knows how to figure that stuff out and when and who to slide, when to chip, when to keep the tight end in. Having those things helped Matt Light become a better player. That being said, without Matt Light, we can't do what we did.
100%.
Terrific player. Anyway, we got him that year too.
So Matt Light told us a story about when he was drafted. I'd love to hear your side of that.
It was how we screwed the Jets. Epic. I mean,
let's hear it.
It never gets old beating the Jets, right?
Never.
No. So here's what happened.
Even though I just got a deal taken off the table to go to a Jets game because the Jets didn't want me there.
No way.
It's better that way. It would have been a nightmare.
It was some company. I was gonna go do something. Go to the New York hates me. I tried to go to a Knicks game once, and I got some floor seats. What's his name?
Dolan.
James Dolan.
James Dolan.
James Dolan heard and took him away.
what?
Yeah, because the Celtics are coming in town. There's some shit. We'll get back to Matt Light draft day.
Now, that's dirty. No, I just marked that here.
Yeah.
He's dead to me.
You know.
It's a tribe, man. It's a family.
Hey,
Right?
hey.
It's a family.
It's a
You
fucking
can't do that to the
evil empire.
So Matt Light. So we're loving Matt Light, and we're thinking now we can get him in the second round, and we need a left tackle at this point in time, right? We kind of got him targeted, and we are, again, this is, I trying to remember the numbers exactly, 51, 2, 3, in and around there, and or 50, and the Jets are picking right before us, and about 3 or 4 picks before, we had this thing where part of the you always talk about the evaluation process, then there's the strategy, then there's the execution. So one of the things that we would do, if there was a player that we wanted and we were targeting, we would call that player a couple of picks early if he was still on the board. And, so I picked up the phone, called Matt. I say, hey, Matt, it's Pioli. How you doing? I had known Matt because we, done a lot of preparation.
You see his phone voice changes. His phone GM voice change right there. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, and you got to say it quiet because you want him to be quiet because he's got people around.
Yeah.
Like, hey Matt, this is Pioli. I said, you hearing from anybody right now? Because we're thinking we love that you're in range. And he goes, oh yeah, as a matter of fact, this is back in the call waiting, right? He says, I just had to click over. I saw, it was you guys. I had to click over. I was on with the Jets. They're picking me when they come up. When are you guys picking? I said, Matt, here we go. Hang up, but don't tell the Jets who just called in. Just say someone else just called in, wrong number, whatever. Don't tell the Jets that I just called. He said, okay. I said, just trust me on this one. He hangs up. I hang up. I look at Bill. I said, the Jets pick right before us. They have him on the phone. They're holding him because that's who they're taking. So we got to move from, I want to say from 51 to 49. But I think it's at like 46 or 47 on the pick. So we start calling everybody before the Jets pick, not getting any action. Call my boy Matt Millen at the Lions, who's one pick ahead of the Jets, and say, hey Matt, we want to move up. He says, yeah, our guy just went, give us a ham sandwich. We'll swap. We were moving 2 spots. Sure enough, we make the trade right as the Lions went on the clock. Call Matt Light. I said, Matt, they still got you on hold? He's like, yeah. I said, well, screw them. We just traded up your New England Patriots.
Let's go.
Right? It was awesome.
Number 48.
48 there, yeah. I knew it was in that. Yeah, 48. Thank you.
Jeez.
And the Jets took Lamont Jordan.
Yeah, running back Maryland.
I don't
Love front office guys.
That's front office.
I
No,
love
here's
the
the
front
I
office
had to
guys.
take 10th grade math twice, right? But you give me a player, I'll give you their hometown. That's
love
stuff
that.
I know. And 10th grade math wasn't really math, man. That was geometry.
I liked geometry
shape.
until we got to until we got to proofs and stuff. That's when I was fucking struggling. Until when the numbers, that's like pre-calc, proofs,
Way above
theories.
my head, brother.
I was probably supposed to be taking that the second time I took geometry.
Yeah,
But I could manage a salary cap. And,
That's-
and
I want to hear
but-
about
but,
that. In a little bit.
we'll have to get into that. XFL was founded in 2001. Now, did you guys when the XFL came, you're part of a player. You're the head of the player personnel department. Do you guys assign a scout to look at these guys?
Yeah.
Because I know we have regional scouts that take like this area, that area for college. When one of these new leagues comes in,
Yes.
like even right now with the USFL, are these teams having a department or a guy dedicated to looking at these teams?
Probably a couple of people. So again, I had some college scouting background, but my scouting background as I came up, starting off as a slappy with the Browns and then working my way up, was primarily pro personnel. So in pro personnel,
There's two different departments for the listener. Also, there's pros. You have your pro scouts that are scouting everyone in the league. So like free agency, this guy gets cut, this guy, and then you have your college scouts. They do all the college guys.
Right. And then within college, you've got an area scout, you've got a regional scout, national scout. It's usually separated geographically. But in the pro personnel department, again, where I kind of cut my teeth for the most part, we scouted the NFL, and you had to do not only free agents, but you had to do the advanced scouting. So like during my time at the Jets, I was a one-man pro personnel department. I did every advanced scout for 3 years, always on the road.
What's an advanced scout?
So you go and scout. Every team is allowed to go see the team that they're getting ready to play. So if we're playing the Bills next week, I can go see the Buffalo Bills, sit in the press box, and watch the game and view the game 1 or 2 weeks before. But you can only go one time. So advanced scouting was when you would go see your future opponent. So you're doing the advanced scouting. So that was one of the ways that mine and Bill's relationship really grew at the New York Jets, where I was the pro director for 3 years. He was the defensive coordinator. Anyway, so we watched the CFL, XFL. The other thing is, you get the advanced scouting. So as a pro personnel guy, which goes back to the time that Parcells' mother effed me and told me to just do my job, was when he asked me a couple of questions about, he wanted to know who the gunner was, the right gunner on the Detroit Lions, a team that we hadn't played that year. And I didn't know who it was. And he mother effed me. He said, why don't you just do your job? Because if you were an expert in your job, you'd know who the right gunner is. I said, Bill, we didn't play the Detroit Lions. So that sounds like an excuse to me, a-hole.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you need to know the league inside and out.
Gosh, I love the 80s.
So leagues. Oh, when abuse was allowed.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're doing the leagues, you're doing every league. And so that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a quarterback.
I'm sorry to interrupt. So when you ask that question, usually the pro personnel departments are understaffed. So the entry-level scouts that I hired, I mentioned some of those guys. Brian Flores was one of those.
I remember.
Brian Ferentz was, Monty Ossenfort, Adam Peters, all these young guys, when they came in, Mike Disner, when they came in, part of their job was to do the college stuff that needed to be done in-house. But I would give them some of the other leagues to do that, to kind of train them and help them and get them familiar with writing reports and what to look for and what not to look for. So it was all hands on deck for these leagues.
Yeah, it's crazy. Who's that quarterback? There's a quarterback that's a 3 right now. I just saw that came. He was the USFL.
PJ Walker.
Martinez. He's a backup on one of the teams right now. He's playing in the preseason. I want to say Martinez.
But from the first round of XFL, we had Rod Smart.
Smart. He hate me.
Maddox.
Yeah,
Tommy Maddox.
Tommy Maddox with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, Tommy he was working backwards though.
Yeah.
He was flip flopping.
Yeah.
Or no, he was
because he had an NFL and then left.
And then Slash got him.
Yeah.
But that was NFL Europe too. I mean, that was
you know what? I almost wish NFL Europe was around when I was a player.
Hey man, that's how that was where we got to evaluate Joe Andruzzi.
Yeah. If I would have had like my first 2 years in NFL Europe, I'd never been outside the country at that point in my life. I was like, man, it would have been so cool to be in Frankfurt or somewhere playing football.
Let me ask you this though. Would the young Julian Edelman, without the structure of the Patriots, have been able to handle?
Yeah, because I
Europe?
wasn't there yet. I was a hungry guy.
Okay.
And I was still hungry to make the
you could
team.
still prioritize.
Yeah, I could prioritize that. I was prioritizing. I mean, I remember, right when I hired Don and Steve, I went into such a crazy rigorous routine. That was like my first time because I was a quarterback. I never really lifted weights. I did all the running and everything, but like I did everything where I cooked all my meals. I got up at 5 and I would go work out before class in Euclid, Ohio, so I could get my fucking workout in. Then I'd drive back to Akron with Charlie Fry, and I would throw with him because I had that dream. You know what I mean? And that was one of the biggest things for me when I was coming out is working with Charlie Fry, he was a pro quarterback. So if you had a pro quarterback talking to you on what he wants to see a receiver do, I didn't know how to run routes, but if you have Charlie Fry coming over and say, well, you got to roll out and you can't have an out like that. You can't, there's too much time at the top of the route, or, that helped me tremendously. So I think I would have had at that time in my life been able to go to Frankfurt because I still had that dream of playing in the league. Yeah.
All right. So you keep saying things like that are triggering all these other thoughts.
That's the whole point.
No,
of the
this
show.
whole idea of like Charlie Fry. I am such a believer in player development. And when you got to the league, you had a quarterback who loved player development, whether it was you, David Gibbons, Deion Branch, all these guys who were certain types of people that worked and could pay attention, were willing, that have a really strong work ethic. He was going to teach maybe some of the work habits. The idea of having a guy like Charlie Fry, a quarterback who was a true professional, and how important the quarterback's role is, along with the coaching staff.
Yeah.
In the play, how important was that for you in terms of your development as a player being with Tommy?
Oh, I mean, that was huge. I would say the time away from the facility was the biggest part for me and Tom because he was at a different part of his career, my career, than when you saw him.
Yeah.
He was already Tom motherfucking Brady. By that time.
He wasn't Tommy anymore.
It wasn't Tom anymore, and it was
Tommy.
This is
Tom now.
This is 2 years removed from 2007. So like they had this electrifying air attack by then. And, for me, it was so hard to gain his trust because he, at that point of his career, he's 10 years in, he's seen a lot of receivers. So it took him time, and he's seen the situation where, he throws to a young receiver and the guy doesn't come flat to downhill and the DB undercuts it. And so he gets scarred and he remembers that. So for a younger player, if you ever get an opportunity to get a ball to you, you have to do a good thing. You can't fuck up the fundamental coaching point or whatever Tom said in the team meeting or whatever he said to Wes. Even if he said it to Wes or Randy, he's expecting you to listen. Right. So, it wasn't until I started training with him in the off season where he was learning my body behavior on how I got in and out of breaks. I was learning things that he would be mad at. That's when we really, started connecting.
But that's part of the pressure, right? And this is exactly what I'm talking about. So it was the scars that you were starting to get from Tommy because he was letting you know what was acceptable and what wasn't unacceptable. And if you weren't, and it's interesting because I felt like our entire team at different positions, part of the Patriots' magic was that players would run other players off.
Yeah.
And if you weren't buying in, but the fact that you bought in because you got scarred by Tommy saying, no, this is the way we're doing it, do it.
But Tom has scars from previous receivers that have, so then it
high
takes
draft choices that we had that, guys who, 2 receivers I know that we drafted in the second round, different years, who had height, weight, speed, tools, but they weren't buying into the program.
Yeah.
Then you get another second round like Deion Branch, who was all in on the program, and David Gibbons. And people forget guys like David Gibbons. And then so many of the players that came to us that there was a way that we were doing business and the way that Tom was going to do business. And if you did it, again, you became part of the tribe.
Yeah. And I always tell people that everyone talks about this Patriot way thing.
I'm not a fan of that.
I'm not either. But when you have to define it, I define it like this. Bill and the coaches were basically Congress. They made the fucking rules. They made the laws. it was up to the players to go out and police them. So they were like the sheriffs and stuff. You know what I mean? Because they put the rules in place, but you didn't have to tell Tom, Teddy, Kevin Falk. You didn't have to tell them what to do. They were police. They got on the motherfuckers or the Vrabels.
Hey.
They got on guys if you weren't doing or holding up to your standard. And that's what everyone talks. It's just accountability.
Accountability on a level
where you're embarrassed if you don't do your job. You're gonna get ridiculed, and guys are gonna give it to you if you didn't give your 100%. If you gave 100% and you didn't get the job done, guys will feel for you. But if you're not doing everything it takes to get the job done and you fuck up, that's when a guy is going to fucking go and destroy you.
And that
multiple guys.
You're nailing it, Julian. And that was part of it. And in the early years, when we moved into the new stadium and the lockers were done numerically, that one set of lockers where you came in that one main door, not the one by the training room. Willie McGinnis on one side, Teddy Bruschi on the other. Then you had Izzo, and then you had Vrabel. You had to walk the gauntlet.
Yeah.
And if you were late, if you screwed something up, I mean, there was a time, Izzo used to have his own. Brad Seeley would have the special teams meetings, but before Brad Seeley's meetings, there was the meeting before the meeting, and certain players, veteran players, would have their own meetings, and there would be like a fine rule. The player fine thing. I know we're not allowed to talk about this.
Yeah.
It's something that used to exist everywhere.
Yeah.
Where if Bill, how Bill always asks those questions, in meetings, and if you didn't know the answer to the questions,
coming in this scouting report, you better know.
The kangaroo court of players would fine you, and they would collect. And the players, there was a couple I won't name all of the players that were involved. They know who they are.
CBAs ago. If the league's gonna come down on us, go fuck yourself. God. But the league's actually gotten a little cooler.
This is where.
Raj?
This is where it got sticky. So there was this whole fine system, and Larry Izzo would have special teams meetings before the special teams meetings. Rookies, practice squad players, they had to show up for these player meetings that were going on. And if you didn't show up or you screwed something up, there was these fines. So there were these players that collected the fines, and I was aware of the fine system. And what happened was there was a game, again, certain players remain unnamed, had a big play, and after the game in the interview says, "Yeah, I just got myself a Ben Franklin," meaning that he was getting $100 from the kangaroo court, that is the locker room kangaroo court. Well, the league starts an investigation. The real leaders of this group, the Bruskis, the Vrabels, and there were the collectors, and then there were the redistributors. But here's what happened: the league started an investigation because they had found out, they heard this, and the redistribution of money, even though it was for all good reasons, all good purposes, if you're redistributing money, they said that falls under the bounty rule.
Yeah.
But our players, and this locker room, here's the thing: our players were never about hurting somebody.
No.
It was never that kind of crap.
Block or...
Yeah, a big block, right? It was that kind of stuff. But the league, so I ended up getting fined.
Yeah.
Because I was aware, it was unbelievable.
Just another gate.
I don't know if we can put this.
Just add it to the gates.
But again, the point of that is what I remember, talking to the folks at the league saying, here's what you don't understand. This kind of accountability is what this team needs. This is peer accountability. This is people holding one another to a certain standard. And you're going to break up this kangaroo court that really is a core part of the fiber of our locker room.
It's camaraderie.
Yeah.
But
I hope we cut that guy for running his mouth to the media about the Benjamin Franklin.
We didn't.
Oh,
we didn't. I remember it was just stupid.
Kangaroo court, you got to have it.
Yeah.
crazy.
Then by the time I got there, we just made like sweatshirts and shit.
With slogans on it.
Yeah. Special team unit. It have like a fighter pilot.
Wasn't Joe Judge a sick fashion designer?
Joe Judge was always designing some shit, bro. I'm like, Joe, we don't need another fucking hoodie. But let's jump into these Raiders. Break them down, Jackie.
Raiders? What do you mean? Don't you mean the Raiders? All right, let's get into these Raiders. These are John Gruden's Raiders, the second seed in the AFC this year, 11-5. Speaking of European football, John Gruden right now advisor to the Milano Seamen.
Milano.
That's right.
It's Italy?
Yes. Yeah. It's look at you. Well done.
You know,
And it's the
I'm no geography
CSEA.
Yes.
Seamen.
Men.
Two separate words, not
Trident
seamen.
type vibes, yeah.
Seaman.
Your Laird Hamiltons, if you will.
That's Waterman.
Oh, Waterman.
Yes.
Waterman.
Yeah, back
You're
to
not
these
even sure
Raiders.
women.
Sorry. Seamen. And this was Bill Callahan was running the offense, the OC this year.
Callahan. His son's a head coach, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, it's so I always love going in. I love going down these old games, and then you start to see the lineage of who comes from where.
Bill Callahan, one of the best offensive
O-line
line coaches all
Always.
time, man. One of the best.
I hear that all the time.
Speaking of great coaches, Fred Biletnikoff was running the wide receivers. You know, it's not bad having a coach with an award named after him. Come on now. David Shaw, you remember him at Stanford, head coach for all those years, quarterback coach.
Chuck Bresnahan. Don't skip that name because Chuck Bresnahan worked at the Naval Academy
With Bill.
Wow.
with Bill's dad and then was actually a quality control guy with us at the Browns under Bill. Brez.
Shout out to Brez running the defense, DC this year. Crazy. And they brought in, talking about pro personnel, Jerry Rice in the
Jerry
offseason.
Rice.
A 39-year-old Jerry Rice.
He had 1,000 yards at
Insane.
40.
Unbelievable.
Insane.
And 9 touchdowns.
And Tim
This is
Brown.
2001.
A couple of gold jackets.
Unbelievable.
Joey Porter was no slouch either.
No.
No, baby.
Charlie Gardner, like we already talked. I love Charlie.
This was a great veteran roster.
Rich Gannon.
This team started out hot, 10-3.
Who was their defensive guys that you had to worry about?
Oh,
You always look at this Raiders team and you think of the Gruden Raiders as an offensive juggernaut.
Rod Coleman was a really good player, I'll tell you. And Chris Cooper was an interesting player. He wasn't a top name, but he was a situational guy that was a bit of a handful. Grady Jackson, outstanding. Reagan Upshaw, Elijah Alexander. Those guys, Beekert was a heck of a player.
Yeah.
But again, the corners, are you kidding me? Eric Allen,
Eric Allen.
right?
Forget
And
about
Charles Woodson?
Woodson.
Come
that.
on.
The young Charles Woodson.
Yeah. So they were a good.
My teammate. We do Fox kickoff together.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he beat me in a tug of war. Fucking guys still got it.
Wow.
We did this finals thing. We went on a Fox recruit trip or a Fox retreat trip, and we got down to the final two guys. It was me and Chuck, and you had to be on a stump with a fucking tug of war pool, whatever. And he's got good length. He did like a little fake thing, and then he lanked me.
Oh,
That is a
Yeah.
good move when you let
So
go
is-
real
And then
quick.
it got me off the stump.
so he got in your head. It was
Nah. Yeah, I don't know. Because he started pulling. I was letting it go. Because, you pull it, you let him go, and then maybe he'll go back. There was some
so
shit.
he kind of
He got me.
wow.
Oh, rope it
It's
up.
kind of like the old Terry Tate. Mine.
It was a full mind game. Fucking.
Remember the Terry Tate?
Office linebacker,
Mine.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Sometimes you gotta
timers.
play mind games.
Shout out Reebok.
Reebok.
Terry Tate, office
We had a
linebacker.
Terry Tate jersey. That was during the big Reebok days
Oh,
in the draft room.
what I would do for that jersey. Oh, my goodness.
Old Terry.
I might still have it.
Oh,
As,
man.
as you guys see, there's a lot of stuff
Do we?
that I
Oh
brought
my
I brought in
gosh.
here. It's
I mean, did you have one of these books dedicated to these Raiders, or is this just straight general
not
manager?
a full book. Not a full book. You know, this is the weekly game plan and stuff. And
Now, we'll jump into it. How do you prepare? What do you do during game week as general manager when you're jumping into a playoff game? Like, what's your day-to-day role? Is Bill giving you certain things to look at, or are you giving Bill to certain things to look at?
when it comes to in the role that I was at that point in time, we had pro scouts that were responsible for the advanced scouting, which would have all the information on the team, and that would include signals. And I know that's going to trigger some people, but here's the signals that we all had to do: the personnel groupings, right? Because back in the day, there wasn't the helmet to player communication. So as you know, 1-1-1, you know, or
He's talking on defense.
No green
well,
dots.
the
No green
defensive play.
dots.
So you would have to get the offensive, identify who the coach was on the sideline as the advanced scout person, identify who was the coach giving the personnel grouping signals, because that was just time, right? So actually during games in my decade with the Patriots, I sat in the booth right next to Ernie Adams and would identify the personnel groupings.
Are
whether
you
it was
talking-
regular, whether it was 12, whether it was 22.
That's so we can match, the
Correct.
defense, and it's gotten different, I think, by this time, where the defense has time to match.
Right.
But I don't know if it was like that back then.
No, it was. So if I would see 1-1-1, that was usually, regular. So if I would see that in the game, I'm set regular.
Base
So
defense.
we would know what defensive personnel have on the field. If they were going 13, or 3 receivers. It's funny because I still have
13 for us was always 3 tight end.
Well,
the offensive side of the ball. 11 would be
11 was 3
singles.
receivers, and then
But it sometimes
we
it
had
flops on
colors
offense,
in
defense.
Cleveland.
Yeah, red, blue, and all that.
Yeah. So that was part of what I would do. So, but really, what I would do during the season is, again, just do your job. My job was looking at players for the draft, looking at players. What I would do every week when we were getting ready to play the Raiders, for instance, I would be looking at all their players during the week that were going to be free agents that offseason. So I was doing the early work to prepare for free agency, so I would have my evaluation done. But, during the season, and during this season is a perfect example, you have injuries, you have things going on. There's teams that are cutting players. You're having to pay attention to the roster.
Yeah.
I mean, this year alone, I want to say it was in November of this season, 2001 season, where we moved on from Lee Johnson, our punter, and brought in Kenny Walter.
Yeah.
Kenny Walter, people don't realize how important he was for that football team and this team that beat the Raiders and won the Super Bowl, not only as a punter, but as a holder.
Yeah.
He was our holder. So, where did he go to school?
Where did he go? Did he?
Kent State.
Did he go to Kent State?
Come on!
Oh, come on!
Oh my
God,
God,
I didn't know
Kent
that.
State guy, yeah. So here's the funny story.
What? How
He
did I
was
know this?
he was fact check me there, but
He's from Cleveland, Ohio.
he's from. Well, here's the deal.
Kent State.
Kent
Kent
State.
State.
Let's go.
He was a punter, but here's the thing. Kenny was a ball boy for us at the Cleveland Browns. Wow. This was one of the things that we used to do. We would bring in guys that were either high school or college punters and backup quarterbacks to be an extra arm in
extra
practice,
arms, always.
and also to be an extra leg for punting. So Kenny, that was part of what I would have to do. Is we were paying attention to the roster. That was my job. I'm not a coach.
Yeah.
Coaches did their job. That they did. I always had to make sure that we had eyes on the players that could improve the roster during the season.
Now, let's jump into that Cleveland Browns. Like, how was that operation? Because that's where you got your start.
As a slappy. We were affectionately known as the Slappies.
See, I'm not the only one that says it. I call these.
As you know, it has
slappies.
a different name, but we were just
Well, yeah, it's slap dick.
yeah. That's
Podcast.
It's a podcast.
podcast. Yeah, but
But
we were just-
like, is that where you guys basically developed your formula and that book that you have right to the right of you on how to scout and what a team's supposed to look like literally at every position? Were you guys starting that in Cleveland and then the band broke up and then you reunited in New England and that's kind of where you did you just
So again, in Cleveland, I was an entry level guy. I had coached for 4 years. I knew Bill back when I had met him when I was in college. I was a sophomore in college. I think he was a defensive coordinator at the Giants. We cultivated this relationship. We stayed in touch. So when he got to Cleveland, he hired me, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be a quality control guy or scouting. I ended up being in scouting. And the manual that we put together for the Patriots was different, and it was different from the rest of the league because scouting at that point in time, there was a base formula of what scouting was about, and it was this, and it had grading systems that were all very similar. But what a lot of teams did, they scouted really based on the league, right? And one of the things that I remember happened during the time working with Bill, having known Bill again for as long as I did personally, and before I went to work with him, one of the interesting things was when I got to Cleveland, there weren't that many people on the staff and within the entire football operation that had actually worked with Bill. Al Groh was our linebacker coach for a short time. Nick and Bill Saban knew one another, but Nick had actually worked with, I want to say, with Bill's dad at one point in time. So there were, and Ernie had worked with Bill. So, and Ernie, one of my all-time favorite people. I'll tell you a cool Ernie story a little later on. It's, so there weren't that many people that knew Bill. And part of what what happened with the scouting was we were big on tools, like a lot of teams, height, weight, speed. And anyway, as important as that stuff is, I think Bill's operation is different in the sense that some people think it's really difficult. I don't think it is. Really, his big rules when we were in Cleveland were be on time, pay attention, work hard. If you do those three things, it really kind of manifested itself in every way for the program 30 years later. So there were some things that we started, I think, to realize that were more important and weren't really a big part of our player acquisition and our player evaluation in Cleveland that we didn't focus on enough, that we focused on quite a bit more. And go into that manual that I brought. That was Ernie and I.
Can you pick that up and show how big these are?
Here you go, sports fans.
Yeah.
When you look
Holy
at
Grail.
a lot of scouting manuals are like that thick.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think sometimes people try to make this more complicated than it is. And when we got done, this is our entire scouting manual.
And who developed this manual?
Ernie and I. But and there you go. There's the 2001. I've got the original 2000. This is 2001. But really, like here at the bottom, I could even say this without even looking. At the bottom of every page, every single page of this book, we're building a big, strong, fast, smart, tough, and disciplined football team that consistently competes for championships. All right, we weren't throwing this word salad out there that we're going to be champions every year. We were going to consistently put ourselves in a position to compete. And people say, well, what kind of players are you going to look for? Well, big, strong, fast, smart, tough, and disciplined football players, right? And that's why I said to you as we were getting going here, what, Jules, you were that guy.
I wasn't big, strong, fast.
You were strong.
I was
you were
very
fast, tough, and disciplined. But here's the thing: all right, maybe you weren't tall, but you didn't play small.
Nah, yeah.
And that's the thing. Just because someone's height isn't at a certain level doesn't mean they can't play big.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, I believe it.
So anyway,
I always argue that too. Everyone's, oh, you're so small. I'm like, nah, I'm 200 pounds. I'm not small.
Solid.
right.
Because if you think about it, in my matchup, I'm going against guys that are anywhere from 175 on a low side, like a small corner, to 210. No one's ever really bigger than that.
But
they're longer.
And people love the big receivers, right? Height, weight, speed. Receivers have it. But let me tell you something. Could you get open?
Always.
Yeah.
In a phone
Deion
book,
Branch got open. You guys are probably near the same height.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true.
Right?
I mean, that's
but think about it. We drafted Chad Jackson, second round. And I'm not throwing shade at Chad. It's just the other things that were important weren't necessary. He wasn't able to develop maybe like you did because he wasn't willing to do Bethel Johnson. We took him in the second round.
Yeah.
Big, tall, fast. So in building that and building the football team, we did a little bit more nuance than we had previously.
In Cleveland.
Here was another thing that we had. So when Ernie and I literally sat in meetings together, when I tell you days upon days upon days, and we joke about it now still, Ernie and I, that we didn't have a vacation that summer because we literally finished the scouting manual and typed that with a little help from Nancy Meyer, but I wanted it on my computer. I was a little bit kooky about that. Just meaning that, I want to put in details where I want to put in details. And but the other person that really helped us was a guy who Ernie learned how to scout from, and that was Bucko Kilroy. God rest his soul.
Yeah, he talks
Ernie's
about
guy.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ernie loves Bucko. I love Bucko. When we got there, I made sure up in the scouting department that Bucko had an office. I learned so much from Bucko. Ernie learned from Bucko. The other person that Parcells tells me the person that taught him scouting was Bucko Kilroy when Parcells was the linebackers coach under Coach Fairbanks 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And so Bucko had this this big picture sense. He was part of building the Blesto grading scale and the national grading scale. And there was, so we used part of that, but we tailored it to be organizationally specific for what we wanted. Every position, the right guard had a description, the left guard had a description, the center did. Every position had specifics, and a lot of that came from Bill and the coaches we were working with. But then the other thing that we paid a lot of attention to was when we were building the team was making sure that we had players that were going to be able to respond to the head coach. every program's different, right? Our way was our way. Bill's way was his way. That didn't mean that a player that couldn't be successful with us couldn't go somewhere else and be successful under a different. Hey, Pete Carroll Bill and Pete Carroll are in many ways different, but they both respect the game, love the game, and respect football people. They did things differently. They both won championships, but stylistically, they wanted different types of people. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No,
I've got a question for you with regards to you guys having a different like grading system or a different thing you're looking at than the rest of the league. When it comes to like drafting, you're drafting against other teams, so your board might look very different from another team.
100%.
How are you trying to find value but still get your guys in that draft room?
That is an awesome question because we ran a 2-gap defense when we were first there.
Still.
So the way that we valued, but when they started playing a little bit more, but what we valued in terms of defensive linemen and or outside linebackers, Mike Vrabel was more valuable to us than some other teams. You know, the big noses that could truly 2-gap guys. That was a different value.
Loved that.
Which for here's the crazy thing. When we first started, that actually played to our advantage because there was a lot of players that other teams weren't interested because they didn't fit their philosophy, their circumstance, their situation, how they wanted to do things, but they fit for us.
Yeah.
And part of what I hope we get into here is talking about that 2001 free agent crew where we signed 23 free agents for a total of $2.5 million in signing bonuses.
Wow.
Here's the thing. And it's not like, that it's players that were throwaways for other organizations.
My generation would be the Rob Ninkoviches, the guys that he was a long snapper. Who else was someone? We always got other treasures or other guys trash.
One man's trash is another. That was a
treasure.
phrase
Even
we said
Welker.
internally.
Welker.
Yeah,
But he was balling. He was balling in
He was
Miami.
just starting to.
Yeah.
We ended up trading, I think it was a second round pick for him. But Roman Pfeiffer, Bobby Hamilton. There's Bobby Hamilton and Anthony Pleasant. Two guys that were linear type built, high hip. They really should have been 1-gap type of guys, which AP was when he came out of Tennessee State. Bobby Hamilton. Both of those guys were such good technicians, and they were rule followers, and they did exactly what they were supposed to do.
Rule followers.
Rule followers. When I say rule followers, I'm talking about rule followers when it comes to your job on the field and playing disciplined football.
But there's always one special guy, like Lawrence Taylor. He wouldn't necessarily follow the rule, but he was never wrong when he broke the rule. Jamie Collins did that for a few years where he would break a rule, but he would make an interception or sack fumble the quarterback and pick it up and run for. Like there's those exceptions, but rule followers are usually.
Yeah, and again, when we say rule followers, you talk about
it's more scheme
in their job.
Yeah,
exactly
it's in their
right.
scheme. So like if you're a defensive end and we're playing against, Russell Wilson, you can't get past the quarterback. You got to keep him in the pocket so he delivers the ball in his weakest area across the middle of the field. If we give him a gaping hole and get behind him and we're trying to run the hump as a defensive end and we're not getting pressure from the middle of the pocket, you're just giving this guy a running lane or a throwing lane. So like those are the things that we're talking about when it's a rule follower. That's why a lot of times DNs would come to our team when I was there. We'd have guys sign that had big sack guys, and they would hate coming to our system because we didn't necessarily do that. We set the edge. We would make the quarterback make the throw and try to get that pressure in the middle of the pocket and play to our corners and our safeties. And there was so much more for the flow of the defense to execute than just try to take the quarterback out with the defensive end, which you can. But that guy can also run. That's why you have these 3rd and 20s where a quarterback takes off and runs because
And the rule followers weren't robots either.
No,
because Brian Cox was not. He followed the base rules, but he played nuanced defense.
Yeah,
he knew when to take chances, how to take chances. Same thing with Braves. Again, Roman Pfeiffer.
It's like Hightower for us, and the Jamie Collins and the Rob Ninkoviches. Which they're kind of same guys. If you look at their
Willie McGinnis.
Willie Mack,
Willie did what he was supposed to do.
Set that edge.
When he was supposed, that dude,
Long arm.
and those hands.
Yeah.
He had similar to Carl Banks, and I've never found the
Which
word.
we're getting into the New England Patriots
Oh,
right now.
yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah.
We just keep going.
Willie had a strength
The hands.
from his fingertips to his elbow that, again, I remember the first time I noticed it and saw it and watched up close, it was Carl Banks. Carl Banks had this ability. Carl's a thin, linear, lean guy. It had this length, but this hand strength and grip strength, kind of like you got, which is why you could catch the ball.
Yeah.
He had this, what I called snatch ability, where he could grab someone and get separation, but without having to do this and get his shoulders out of whack, he could snatch a guy like this. And that was such an important part for guys who had to set the edge. Willie McGinnis had that same thing. Willie had rare strength.
And why that's so good is because when you shed a blocker and you're out here, your feet are in a different area, so you can only go one way. If you can hold the guy and have that grip strength right in front of you, and you can slash him or you can slide him with just your wrist or whatever, you have two ways to go with your feet, so then you can make a play. So you
Exactly.
pop, pop. You know what I mean?
And if you're setting the edge and I'm the right side and I got to shed a guy on the inside, but if I have to do this,
Then
that
he can-
little bit, they get the
They
edge
can
on
get
you.
out of-
So
It's a fine line, and that's like a big rule on our team. I was
Don't
on
get out of
offense,
position.
And I heard set the edge. There's no edge. I mean, because we do all the film in front of everyone. So
and there was one time it was an interesting team chemistry thing too. And again, this is not throwing shade at a player, where we went outside of our system and signed Adalius Thomas,
yeah,
who was a big free agent at that time, a really good player, tremendous player in the Baltimore Ravens system. And the Ravens system, I think Rex Ryan was the coordinator at that point in time for the Ravens, and things were different. Where he had to come in and do our things, that was a mistake by us, because we brought in this tremendous talent,
yeah.
who wasn't the right fit scheme wise. He wasn't the right fit locker room. The chemistry with him and Vrabel and some of it just wasn't right. So sometimes, just finding the right tools and the right makeup is a critical part of the team chemistry.
Team chemistry is everything. It can't just be the extrinsic tools. It has to be the intrinsic tools for that heartbeat to go.
Yeah.
Jackie, can you break down these Patriots?
And yeah, that was Rex Ryan, by the way.
Even a blind squirrel, man.
Rex.
Hey, don't ask me the Pythagorean theorem, though, man.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Yeah, that's the only one I know.
10th
Who
grade
cares about
geometry.
that? I care about coordinators and where they were in the early 2000s, baby. Let's get into these Patriots, huh? All right, 11-5, the second seed. This coaching staff rocks. Bill Belichick is the head coach, baby. Charlie Weiss, OC, DC Romeo Crennel,
RC.
all-time guys. We talked about some of those notable rookies earlier. Richard Seymour, Matt Light. This was Brady's second year in the league. And just to flash back a little bit, prior to this season, Bledsoe gets the 10-year, $103 million contract. Man,
That's a big one, eh?
that's a big one.
What's that look for?
No, that was a huge contract. And
The first $100 million contract in the history of the.
And that was actually agreed to before we came in 2000.
Oh,
And again, it was agreed to, and it was something we were married to. And from a cap perspective, it became really complicated to try to work around
yeah.
at that time, because it was such a huge portion of the cap at the time.
And Brady would take over in week 2 after the Mo Lewis hit that we all remember against the Jets in week 2 that year. Brady would go 11-3 as a starter in the regular season. And this was, as Scott talked about earlier, the all-time, maybe the most impactful group of free agents to come in that season. Just to name a few, we talked Brian Cox, Mike Compton, Mark Edwards, Damon Hewer, Larry Izzo, David Patton,
Patton,
Roman
Chief.
Pfeiffer,
RIP.
Anthony Pleasant.
Love my guy.
Love David.
Unbelievable. Would you say, is it fair to say this is probably the most impactful group of
Hold on, there's
free agent
two more,
signings?
Sam. They're worth saying.
Antoine Smith and Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, that list goes on and on. It was a big part, and it was not only who they were and what they were, it was the price. Again, it was all these players that other teams didn't want or didn't value. Larry Izzo. I'm going to say this. I think one of the most important free agents of that entire class, Mike Compton. And Mike Compton is not talked. I get emotional talking about Mike because I loved Mike. So I was a GA at Syracuse when Mike played. They had at West Virginia. And I saw Mike Compton, Adrian Morrell, the 2 starting true freshmen. Mike Compton was a hell of a football player. Brilliant. If any of you guys have met Mike, Mike sounds real country.
Yeah.
And he's, I think people don't realize how smart he is. So I, as a pro personnel guy, had watched Compton his whole career at the Lions. Compton had started legitimately at left tackle, left guard, center, right tackle. He had started, I want to say, double-digit games or close to double-digit games at all 5 positions. He was primarily a center, All-American at West Virginia, tremendous player. And when he became available, I want to say we gave Compton like $200,000 to sign. But here's the thing, and if you watch, and it's so funny when I listen to people talk about these early teams and how much they don't understand some of the truth and the accuracy. Mike Compton, our starting center was Damian Woody. Right? Do you know that every time that we went into shotgun that season, including this game, Woody had to move to left guard and Compton had to move to center?
Couldn't do the snap?
Because Woody couldn't shotgun snap. He had the knob blocks. Remember, you guys are young.
Yeah, the yips. No. Second base
first.
Yankees.
So Woody couldn't shotgun snap. So every time, Mike Compton's value to that football team and his, our 2 starting centers.
The more you can do.
The more you can do. That's what Bill said to me when he hired me.
The more you can do.
He just looked at me and I thanked him. He says, "Don't thank me. Just remember, the more you can do, the more you can do." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I didn't know what the heck he meant.
Value.
Exactly.
The more you
right.
can do, the more value you bring to a team.
Amen. So those guys, like a guy like Mike Compton for $200,000, the fact that he was so smart and could shotgun snap, he's the reason we could go to shotgun that year.
Now,
but can I add one other thing there on not a fun fact, but another fact that was, you have the Terry Glenn suspension. There was another awful, the chaos that surrounded this football team during training camp, not only because of Terry Glenn suspension, but our quarterback coach, Dick Rabine, God rest his soul, wonderful coach.
Passed, right?
Better, August 8th of that year,
Yeah.
August 3rd or 8th it was, and had a heart attack. He was running on a treadmill. It was a day off, gets hospitalized. They think he's going to be okay, and passed the next day.
Wow.
And that was Brady's position coach, right? That was Bledsoe. He was the quarterback coach. Good friend. He was a big reason why he was with the Giants prior to that. Prior to being in 2001, he knew David Patton inside and out because David had been at the Giants previously. So this is where it was important that we not only knew the players, but we knew the makeup of the players, where we used this village of people to gather and collect information. So the number, it's just, and Terry Glenn suspensions, plural, it happened. I mean, there was so much chaos, and what had to be overcome that entire season was, and then Drew getting hurt. I mean, it was a lot, man.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into that whole decision and everything, but
I really want you to, when we come back to Boston, just because this episode is amazing, I really want to have you come back up another time and do the Patriots-Browns 95 Super
have you
playoff
seen
round.
That?
And then
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
One of the last times the Browns won a playoff game. We have seen that football life.
Real quick, Nick Saban thing. So at that time, the Slappies at the Browns were Phil Savage, Jim Schwartz, myself, and Schwartzy, and George Kokinis. And Nick invites us over for what we think is going to be a barbecue. Right? St. Nick, right? He brings us over. We get there, and Miss Terry, his wife, who's the best on the planet. They got all these trees lined up. They wanted us to dig holes and plant trees. You can't even make it up, man.
Oh my gosh.
So we were like gun shy. So when we got invited over for Easter Sunday dinner, Georgie and I are like, are we sure we want to do this? And the ground might still be frozen.
Oh my, I hope you didn't have your Sunday best on.
Planting trees, man.
Miss Terry.
Oh,
Holy smokes.
Fucking Saban.
Was he still eating his Little Debbie's back then?
Oh, he's a little Debbie guy.
He loves Little Debbie. I was a Hostess kid.
I was in anything, kid. As you get that. I mean, it was.
We were on
Well, whatever was on
sale.
Exactly right.
All right, Jackie, let's get into the game lead up.
Let's get into the lead up this game. We wrapped up the Pats. Patriots were coming off a bye. They had the second seed, so
Crazy.
they got a bye. Oakland had to get in the wild card round, crush the Jets after losing to them in the final week of the season. During the day, pretty clear weather. Cold but clear. Then, as nightfall comes, that thick stuff starts falling. Big old thick flakes. And this was, believe it or not, I believe, the NFL's first ever primetime playoff game.
Wow.
Which sounds nuts. Crazy, right?
They were always in the day?
Yeah, up until that point. We got to quadruple check that, but after 3 checks, it's what they're saying, which is nuts to me. And in a building that would be the last game at Foxborough Stadium. Scott, was it as gross as people said it was? I don't want to say gross, but as bad.
It was pretty bad. Pepper Johnson, our defensive line coach.
Oh, Pep. I had Pep.
So Pep was down in his meeting room because there wasn't enough meeting rooms, was the visitor's locker. And there were a couple of we couldn't determine if they were rats or mice, but it was kind of like Michael Jackson where he had names for the rats. Pepper had a couple of the rats' names. Yeah. But so a couple things on these facts. So you talk about the bye week. What's crazy was we had a bye week before our final regular season game. Played I want to say the Panthers the last
because of the September 11th season.
Jules, see, that's the other thing. Yeah.
September.
Thank you for bringing that up because I meant to bring that up.
You're a New Yorker, so how did that hit you? That's I mean, for anyone that's a custom or anyone close to that city, you know, especially then being a Patriot and then the run you guys are going on, like this had to have some, you know, this is for America.
It was so the whole. We'll talk about this a little. So my hometown. I grew up in Washingtonville, New York. My hometown is one of those 1960s white flight communities where in the mid 60s, a lot of white people were moving out of New York City. My dad's from Bronx, mom's from Queens. They were living in the Bronx. They moved out in '64. This community of Washingtonville and Blooming Grove was filled with civil servants because city cops, city firemen, union workers really couldn't afford to live in the city and they wanted to move out. And yeah,
it's tough.
7 people from my hometown.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
City cops, city firemen. It was, and then just so many people. But here's the crazy part. I want to loop back to something we were talking about before. Remember we were talking about the dysfunction part about this game being like a drug. I remember exactly what happened that morning, exactly where we were. There was something going on, and I think the conversation that Bill and I were having. Bill's office was downstairs in the old Foxborough Stadium. We were upstairs, and there was something going on. And I think it was Terry Glenn related, and it was early in the morning, and it was intense. I was locked in, and I came upstairs, and the mood felt weird, but I was like so on track that I wasn't picking up. And this is where one of my shortcomings. There were times where I would get so focused, that I would miss cues. For the most part, I'm good at it, but this was one of those mornings I was missing cues. I came upstairs, walked past Nancy, and there was something going on. I went back downstairs. We're getting amped up, Bill and I. We have no idea. This had happened already. And I'm coming up the stairs, and I walk by, and I see everyone's looking at their TVs.
Yeah.
And it was always a pet peeve of mine when people at work would watch their TVs. Everyone's looking at TVs. And I walk by Nancy. I go, hey, is anyone working today? I said, why, what's on TV here? And I didn't see because all the TVs were turned so you couldn't see it unless you were, and it was other people in their offices too. And Miss Nancy, who you know is the
sweetest lady.
She's that
longest tenure Patriot in the organization.
She was there when Parcells was there as an assistant, then as the head coach. Miss Nancy just looks at me, she goes, Scott, do you know what's going on right now? And this was apparently like an hour after this had happened. And I was like, what are you talking about? You know, I'm not very patient. She goes, I think you better look at this. And it was September 11th. And I was like, it was one of those moments that kind of snapped me into like, I need to get a grip here because there's more to do. Anyway, it was a really weird kind of
that was. I mean, we all know where we were. I remember it. Being on the West Coast, and it was something that we'll never forget in our generation. This is our generation's Kennedy assassination.
Yeah.
Then the next generation, they'll be thinking of COVID, and like that was one of the things that we were 3,000 miles away, and it was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, it was just a scary time. You didn't know what was going on. The outlets of media were so much different in that day and age, where you were just glued to a TV instead of nowadays. We all would have saw that and had a buzzer alert on our phone.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
you would have known instantly, but
yeah. My mind's going a million miles because I'm thinking, like, all of my buddies I graduated with, so many guys they were city cops and city firemen. Their parents were, and that's what they were doing now. And it was.
So then
So what was that moment like then, the first game back against the Jets, the Joe Andrewsy? Is there
surreal.
like
the whole couple of weeks is surreal, and, because Joe's brothers were city firemen, and it was surreal, and there was this whole thing. You're trying to focus on your job, yet your country had been attacked, and you're trying to, part of our program is you compartmentalize everything in order to get your job done. It's the blessing and the curse that we are, right?
is.
And so it was tough. And when they came out, and Joe had the flags, and it was emotional on a lot of levels. And right, so
did you guys feel going into this playoff? Did you guys have a feeling like it was bigger than the sport that the Patriots should win? Or I know the answer to that.
You don't
I know the
say
answer
it
to that.
Outside the track.
Because you're
let's get
inside the building. You're not really thinking about all that
sure.
stuff. You're literally thinking about your game plan and stuff. But there's guys talking in the locker room.
So let's you and I give an honest answer here. Let's get the reality is, right, you focus, you lock down in the deep dark recesses. There's that thing playing around in my. Of course, we're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's being talked about. But you better not say it out loud.
Can't say it out loud.
Don't say, because again, then you're not, and it's not even a fear for the players. It's not even a fear of Bill thing. It's your teammates too. You don't want to
fluster a guy. You don't know how someone else is going to react. You don't know if someone will tense up too much. It'll put more pressure on a guy. So everyone kind of tries to do their own thing.
Yeah. And, it's funny you mentioned too, the last game played at Foxborough Stadium. Here's a cool fact about that. The stadium, Foxborough Stadium, was supposed to be demolished on December 23rd, the day after that last home game. And they couldn't do it because we didn't know, there was a chance we were going to have a home playoff game. So that Foxborough Stadium was amazing. That like we talk about this game setting the stage for the Patriots, the beginning of the dynasty. It was also like such an incredibly emotional game. It was 9/11. It was. We weren't supposed to be there. It was the
last home game.
It was the holiday. There's just like this whole thing, and then there's this one part I'll never forget. When we were up in the press box, I remember sitting next to Ernie, and Ernie had towels with him. Ernie was always prepared. I don't know if Ernie was ever a Boy Scout.
He wasn't he?
But I bet he is the most prepared person.
What were the towels for?
Because inside the the coach's booth, the windows would fog up and steam up. So if there was ever rain or snow because of the heat inside, the windows would fog up. So Ernie's up there doing the windows while he's watching the game, cursing. Ernie is a great curser because
Really?
Ernie
Keeps it PG on games with names.
But see, the thing is, he's not a wasteful cursor. Right?
Yeah, when he
It's
swears, he's
points
gonna
of
make it
emphasis.
count.
Oh yeah, he makes it count. But there was some cursing going on when he's trying to clean windows and do his job and look at things and be on the headset with Bill. But during that game especially, because the snow, you literally like the game tying field goal. I don't know if any of us really fully saw the ball
The whole time, yeah.
across the crossbar. It was because it was a far away end zone
And it was snowing.
yeah.
Now, go ahead.
Did Ernie have like, hey, go on the field early? Like, oh, we need to have the 7 studs, or we need to have the like.
Ernie, I'm telling you what, Ernie's one of my favorite people on the planet.
Yeah.
He, so I'll tell you a quick story, Ernie's story, Cleveland story. It was my second, so I got to, no, it was my first year in Cleveland, 92. And there was like a group of us sharing this office, the Slappies. It was the Slappy Den. And it was one office, a small office for normal people. They had 3 of us in it. I'll never forget, it was real early in the morning. Ernie shows up, and it's March 31st of 1992.
Started League, New Year League.
It's my birthday.
Oh.
March 31st. It's my dad's birthday. I saw it in our
Really?
notes, yeah.
But you know who else's birthday it is?
Ernie's.
Ernie's. We have the same birthday. Ernie walks in, and again, now mind you, I was just getting to know Ernie, and Ernie's this guy that no one knew. Even those of us that worked with him early on, he was this man of mystery. Not international man of mystery, just a domestic man of mystery. And he walks in, I'll never forget. And in Ernie, he goes, "So, I see it's your birthday." And he puts a cupcake on my desk and says, "Happy birthday," and walks out. And you're laughing, but I'm going to tell you this. From that moment on, Ernie was my guy.
Yeah.
That's
Because
so nice.
that's part of Ernie. And you worked with Ernie around. Ernie doesn't always show emotion. He doesn't always show.
Ernie has.
He is a dude, man. Yeah, I'm getting emotional talking
is a
about
dude.
him.
One of
I
one.
love Ernie. I love his wife Christine. I was at their wedding. You know, it's like that moment was one of those things. It was like, okay, here's this guy that, and here's what used to piss me off. And Ernie knows that some folks used to clown him,
Yeah.
and I never appreciated that.
Well, they
Never
just didn't know who he was.
Right, because I think people were afraid of him. They were intimidated. And what do people do when they're, especially dudes, football dudes, right? They kind of, it's, yeah. So that's like one of my favorite Ernie stories. From that moment on, I knew who Ernie was. He didn't know me, but he gave me a cupcake. He had this little place that he used to stop at. He gave me a cupcake on my birthday. I mean, that is just cool. Again, it probably sounds weird, but
What's it
we
like?
we
That
love
rocks.
Ernie. And your Ernie impression,
That's perfect.
spot on.
How is watching this game? Like, what's watching a game like, a whole game like with Ernie?
It's awesome.
Kill to be a
Because-
fly on the wall.
So we literally sat next to each other in the coach for those 9 seasons, every single game. And he's on the phones, and he had a special switcher. So here's the thing: Ernie had his headphones, but he has a special switcher where he could be on offense, defense, or special teams, like the head coach. He had a head coaching headset, okay, but he also had the bat phone. There's always, how they have the sideline to phone, the red phone. Ernie had the bat phone. It was right in front of him. And Ernie, so much of our situational football, and again, I don't know if this has ever been talked about, maybe it has, but so much of our situational football and Bill's attention, on-field, in-game attention to situational football and potential situations was Ernie Adams.
100%.
And Ernie would say, "Hey, Bill, don't forget XYZ." When it came to the wind, Ernie, because Bill's got so much going. It's not that Bill didn't know these things.
He's got to manage a lot of other things.
He's doing so many things. That's why that in-game partnership, along with the coordinators, and again, not just offense and defense. Like, so I watched this snowball game for the first time on TV ever before we were doing this, and there were just little things that you saw. Like right before the overtime coin toss, they cut to the sideline. They show Bill, and who's talking with Bill but Brad Seeley, who's a special teams coach. Where we're going to kick. And I know in that moment, in my mind's eye, I know that conversation going on is not just Bill and Brad Seeley. It's Ernie Adams. On the headphones with Bill.
He's
so
Alfred.
he's
Bill's
Ernie.
Batman. He's Alfred.
Oh, clearly
There
you've
it
said
is.
this before.
Never.
But,
No, that's
that
first
is
time, I think.
outstanding.
Spot on.
When Bill has to go out and do it, but Alfred's back in there. Hey, you got a guy over here, dude.
Wow, look at you.
It's kind of what it is.
Spot on.
You said you're not word man, but you just pulled Alfred out. That's
Oh,
big time.
movie word, man.
See, I never saw the Batman movies. I
Read the comic books
You gotta listen.
I saw the old series back in when
with the pow and the
Holy
wham.
Toledo, Batman.
exactly.
You gotta watch the Christopher Nolan ones. we'll get into that.
Around here, Jules is more of a Robin to our Danny Amendola, which is a Batman.
There's a lot. I see. I wasn't around for that time. There's a lot.
Outside looking in, who would you say is Batman?
Kind of like not knowing Seinfeld, right? There's certain things, relationships of. I was there for the first decade, right? And then there's this whole second decade that I don't. There's a lot of stuff I got to learn.
It's a lot of it's the same.
It's different.
It's different, but it's the fucking
The
same.
characters are the same. The names are just different. You mean? Or?
Yeah, it's kind of like when Scar would go and we'd be Scarnecchio would sit there and we'd be studying another team. All right, assholes, it's the same cars, just different license plates. Meaning the scheme is the exact same, just the number's different. You remember
Dante is the best, man.
So let's get back.
Hold
into
on,
this
before we
game.
move on, Ernie. Just one last thing. I'd be a bad producer if I just didn't ask, because Ernie will never tell us. Do you know what pink stripe is? Pink stripes? You know anything about that? It might be a later on thing. It was in the do your
certain
jobs.
family business is family business.
It's family business.
Family business.
Acceptable answer. I just had to do my job to ask.
I can't tell. He told me, but I can't tell.
Yeah, he told me too.
Oh, fuck.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
All right, Jackie, let's go. Come on, we gotta get in this.
All right.
Should we pop into the game here a little bit? I think we first got to talk, Scott. We love on this pod. We love ref talk. And because there would be a little officiating nuance late in this one, foreshadowing, we got Walt Coleman for this one.
Oh, Coleman.
Oh, Walt Coleman, baby.
Walt.
Starting
Love you,
off,
Walt.
love you, Walt. Starting off on this one, scoreless first quarter. Patriots in a first down in the first quarter. Then early to start the second quarter, a critical kick catch interference leads to some better field position for Oakland. They get on the board first with a James Jett touchdown. 7-0. It would stay that way to the half.
Now, what are you thinking about right now when he's going over these?
When he's
these
going
first
over
up?
that, here's the thing.
What hits you in the head?
There's a couple of things. So we prided ourselves. One of our sayings, and you remember, is more games are lost
Than won.
than they are won. When we had that penalty on the interference, the
Kicker interference.
Ken Walter.
punter interference, it led to a touchdown because it gave them the shorter field. That's how they scored their touchdown, and their only touchdown of the game. And that was anti-Patriot, right? And the crazy thing is, that game, there were only 5 penalties. That was the only penalty that we had that game, and it led to points and almost bit us in the butt. So when I'm thinking, it's crazy. Like when I was watching TV, I literally got angry watching. And Jerod Cherry, who did it, was a terrific player. That was one of our other 23 signings. Terrific special teams player, important part. He made a mistake, but that's what I'm thinking about. And then I also think about how the other 4 penalties in the game were all pre-snap penalties by the Raiders. And we know about free. Hey, that's free money right there.
Free. And that's
So I just thinking about the penalties. So
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned that first drive that I was so pissed off again watching it again. Come on.
one of the first things you'll hear at one of the first team meetings of a new season is Bill will address the team and he'll say, you can't win until you keep from losing. Meaning penalties, bad football, negative
football.
plays, things that you can prevent happening. You don't have to do something superior or anything crazy, but if you just play the game the way it's supposed to be played, no MEs, no penalties, pre-snap penalties, no freebies, you'll put yourself in dramatically such a higher position to win.
Yeah.
And that's something that was a premium. You look at the bottom of his page, of Scott's page, what do they say? We want tough, big, strong, fast, tough, smart football players. Smart football players meaning, being able to decipher these types of things, know your assignments, don't do stupid things that'll hurt the team because like Bill says, most games are lost, not won.
Yeah.
It's a team that makes the least amount of mistakes that wins. If you can watch all these games. And that's really what it is. It's not the team that makes the biggest plays. It's the team that doesn't make the least amount of mistakes that wins.
And we were a team that we prided ourselves by preying upon, P-R-E-Y, preying upon other teams' mistakes.
Yeah.
And, you asked, what's the other thing that hit me? And this is, I think, hopefully folks will go back and watch this game because I want to say that the first 3 passes that Brady threw that game were screen passes.
Yeah.
And
A look pass too.
Shout out Charlie.
and there's this whole history. Again, this is part of the development of Tom Brady. And this is why I talk about this game encapsulating the special teams plays we made, the defensive plays we made, and Tommy being coached and the play calling within Tommy's wheelhouse at the time. You know, Charlie Weiss learned a lot from Ron Earhart, who was, again, the Giants quarterback coach, Phil Simms. And when Phil Simms became a really good player in the league, Ron Earhart had become the offensive coordinator, nicknamed Fargo.
Yeah.
He had been with Parcells 100 years. And
He's
then
from North Dakota or something.
North Dakota State, maybe,
Fargo.
And so he,
detective there.
so Ron Earhart,
Big Coen Brothers fan.
Yeah.
but Charlie Weiss, when we go to the Jets, Charlie is the offensive coordinator. Fargo is our quarterback's coach before Dan Henning gets there. And part of what it helped Phil Simms, short, sideways, underneath, swing passes, short and sideways. The extended running game is what we called it, using the running backs.
Using the whole field.
Using the whole field, and it doesn't have to be all the long ball doesn't win all the time.
Well,
people love the long ball,
100%. But the more you make a defense have to defend the whole field, the better chances you have when you're separating that defense, and they got to think about that screen. Then you get a 20-yard run or you get a deep ball because they're so focused. It's all like boxing. You got jabs. You're not just going to be throwing your haymaker every time,
right?
You know, but the best way to get your haymaker to actually land is to set it up with the jab.
Here's the other thing that the short passing game does. It gets the defense running. It gets them tired. The other thing it does, and this is the most important part, and I remember listening to Ron Earhart talk about it
Confidence.
When we got to the Jets. Vinny Testaverde had this career, and Vinny had played pretty well with us at the Browns. We were doing short and sideways with him. Vinny comes to us at the Jets, and a lot of things were short and sideways. Part of it was not only the quarterback's confidence, but the team's confidence in the quarterback.
Yeah.
Tommy was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, this is his first year as a starter. And Charlie Weiss was so smart in his play calling. He was one of the best screen coaches I've ever been around, and the details and making things look good. So the beginning of this game, in that first half, to me, there was so much importance in how he set up the game and building Tommy's confidence and getting Tommy
confident throws. I mean,
Yeah.
you always want to start the game with because he's a second-year quarterback at this point in his career, Tom.
Right.
This is the biggest game in the organization's history at that point. You know, not including 85 and all that, but to this point, it's been 20 years or whatever it is, 30 years. So to get him confident, you gotta get the young buck going. The screens and all the swings and the look passes, those are all designed to get him going.
And give the receivers confidence, too.
Yeah, I like catching a ball early,
Yeah.
nice, easy one.
There's 52 pass attempts in this game.
That's crazy.
You look at this game, you wouldn't ever expect
But you
that.
look at I want to say 10 passes. Wiggins had 10.
Snowplow, baby.
Yeah.
Dude, Wiggins was making some plays.
How about the catch off of the ball
That
popped
bounced-
out of
feet.
Patton's hands, and he caught it on the sidelines and kept his
Yeah.
feet in.
The
I see
concentration.
Boston.
He had a crazy third down too late in the game, but we'll let Jack get
Absolutely.
into it.
Yeah, you were right, Scott. The first three passes, Mark Edwards, J.R. Redmond, Kevin Falk, all out of the backfield catching balls, which is awesome. Then in the third quarter, just to pivot after halftime, a little bit of a field goal fest. Janikowski knocked in two. Adam knocked in
We
one.
talk about Vinatieri being clutch. That old. What is Sebastian Janikowski? Where's he from? He's
Poland. By way
Florida
of
State.
Daytona.
that guy loves some vodka. That dude was kicking him in there.
Bro, I heard he was an amazing high school soccer player. Like, amazing.
Dude, the guy played until he was
Down there in
the guy
Daytona
didn't
Beach.
train a lick and he was kicking bombs.
That ball, when you heard talking about
yeah.
Stu, you heard him.
It was
kick
kind of
the
like
ball.
when
it was
you
like
were- when you-
thunder.
when you were talking about that, it reminded me when we were playing San Diego and Leckler was punting. Remember the Lecklers?
Yeah.
I remember because when you return, I would always go watch the punter. And when you hear a punter it sounds like a cannon.
Absolutely. And that's how you evaluate kickers.
That's how
Do they hit the meat of the ball?
Yeah.
It's like a baseball hit, hitting the meat of the bat. You can it's
Evaluating
scouting.
kickers, like how crazy of a game was this for Vinatieri? Like the clutchness.
It was unbelievable. But again, from where he came from, he was from the Dakotas. He, in his mind, I remember him talking about it. This was another day at the office for him, even though he had been out of it. Adam was one of the most cool on the surface.
Yeah.
Cool customers. This game put him on. I mean, what he did that season, because again, later on in the Super Bowl, he kicks game winner, man. That's
Shane Leckler was a punter this game too on the Raiders.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. So then after the third, 13-3, Oakland's up, and then what really turns the tides is this 10-play, 67-yard drive eats up almost 4.5 minutes that leads to a Brady rushing touchdown, cuts it to 13-10.
13-10. So at this point of the game, are you nervous or are you confident? And going into the game, was the game plan to keep this high-flying offense? You wanted to keep this specific game close to the very end to give yourself, or was it one of those? What was that?
I think it was their offense was good. Gannon was good. So as you know, sometimes the belief was that our best defense was going to be our offense. We also knew that we had Antoine Smith. We were in regular. We were in 22. You know, we were
Big running back.
Yeah,
Big boy.
So keeping the ball away from them. I mean, you look at the end of the game, the time of possession, I want to say we had 40 minutes. They were 28. We dominated time of possession. And again, when you're playing a really good offense and a fast striking offense, part of it is keeping, your defense off the field and their offense. So running the ball was really important. And I'll say, I don't know if nervous was, I was certainly anxious.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know a game where I didn't feel anxious.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Even when we were up sometimes by 21 points.
Or 24.
You just, wow.
Had to go there.
Had
to do it.
It's just, I don't know. My bad.
That's wrong. Well, real quick thing on that. People say, man, that had to be the worst loss of your life when I was with the Falcons and everything.
07 had to be.
I was just going to say, no, I was 18.
Undefeated.
I was 18-1.
Yeah,
so that's
undefeated.
As much as that evening sucked. Anyway, thanks for bringing me down. What a buzzkill. It's like poke me in the eye.
It's kind of like Bill. I gotta bring it back. I gotta bring him back.
Oh my gosh.
So a lot of anxiety because again the clock was ticking and we were not moving the ball quickly.
But the defense was playing great.
Lights out. But again, this is part of and this is so important. I think the revisionist history of the development of Tommy. Our defense was so good, man, and it was so opportunistic. And this is what a young quarterback needs. And you need special teams. So defense was lights out. Special teams, again, Troy has those two muffed punts. Izzo's on it.
Yeah,
Adams kicking out of his mind. So there were a lot of things and people helping carry this game. Now, Antoine Smith rushed for 1,100 or 1,200 yards, I think, that year. He didn't have a lot of yards that game,
65.
but his yards were important yards, particularly, when we get to, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Oh, no, go ahead.
But Jack, there's some stuff coming up. So, I was very anxious.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a game like this, low scoring, weather factor, those long methodical drives are so valuable. Because what Scott said, the time possession, that's when you can really control a game.
Absolutely.
Even if you go down and you take 5 minutes off the clock, 6 minutes off the clock, and you only get a field goal, how demoralizing that is for a team. Because then they're sitting there thinking like, you got the offense haven't been on the field in 20 minutes. They're sitting there like, oh, fuck, another third down conversion. Oh, shit, are we going to stop them on first? Can we get a goddamn negative play? That's what the offense is thinking while the defense is out there on these long, methodical drives, even though we should be thinking about. But, when it's this type of game, that takes a lot out of your offense because then it makes it more pressureful when you're out there because you know that they just went this long, and if you don't, then you're in third down and long, you're like, oh, fuck.
Well, you bring up great points because in the first half, we did not have 1 third down conversion in the first half. That's bad. But as soon as if you watch our first offensive drive in that game in the second half, our offense is punking them. I mean, Mark Edwards, our fullback. I mean, the pushing and shoving that's going on. It's Mark Edwards. It's Compton. It's guys.
What's going on at halftime then for these adjustments?
I'm not down there.
You know,
Ernie and I stay up at that's coaches are coaching.
You give your notes and then they probably translate it to the team,
and you know what's going. And when the coaches run down with they
got 5 minutes decompress, then we break up O&D and then team at the end.
So, but if that second half, the Tide, and Julian, great point, that long drive, the Tide started turning. And in that first offensive drive, we're punching them in the mouth. We're playing with a different mentality, different attitude in that second half. Because like, hey, there may be 30 minutes left in the season. It's go time.
Yeah.
And we built that team. You know, we were not a fast football team, but we were big, strong, smart, and tough.
Yeah.
And we were built for that venue. We were built for grass in December and January.
Did you design the teams like that? Did you think about that when you were going into a draft, or is that in the notebook?
We always wanted to be faster, but speed is difficult to get sometimes. We wanted to play fast, but it was part of, Belichick was a part of those big, tough, strong defenses at the Giants. And that was, and again, when part of what you're playing for is you do want to design your team around your venue. The Colts looked completely different than we did because they played in that back when it was the RCA Dome. It was the old fast turf.
Yeah.
And but we were mudders. I mean, we whether it was intentional or we knew what we were because we also knew if we were playing home games in December and January, like another season. But that big playoff game against the Colts years later, the AFC Championship game, we were built to win that game in that circumstance.
Yeah.
I fought the Law in the Law 1 game.
That's right.
Oh,
that was great.
I saw it. How great is Ty
Oh,
Law?
electric.
Everything's great except having him interviewing him at 10:30 in the morning and he's making us drink shots. That was the only thing.
I saw that. Like, so when we got here, one of the first things I checked, I'm like, gosh, I hope this is not.
No. This isn't a drinking podcast. Only.
Well, that's why I was confused. Did he brought that?
Oh, yeah, that was his.
It's his company.
It's his company.
And they have a thing with the Hall of Fame. They actually do some really good work.
Yeah, they do some great thing for the Hall of Fame players.
That was quite the episode.
I was nervous. Yeah, I'm like, I hope we're only going with the Dunkin' this morning.
I'm drinking
you
Dunkin',
need an
baby.
espresso or anything? You good?
I'm good.
We spoke about all 3 phases of the game and the offense, the defense, the special teams. The moments that preceded the moment we all remember, the tuck rule moment, were 2 great displays of that.
Why? Stop calling it the tuck
I'm
rule,
sorry.
The snowball moment.
You're right. The snowball moment. Pardon me.
The snowball moment that had the rule of tucking.
The Walt Coleman moment. The correct call moment.
Yes.
Was a 3rd and 1 with just over 2 minutes left. If Oakland converts this, that might be game over.
Game, set, match.
Brian Cox and Richard Seymour get in there and blow it up. Force a Shane Leckler punt. Troy Brown, an amazing return, 37-yard return, fumbles. Larry Izzo with the alert recovery.
Second time.
Shit on the sideline, Izzo. You hear that story?
Can we hear this real quick? Well, I don't think we said that on the pod yet.
Izzo just contacted me. He said he wants to come on.
We'll see
I'm going to have Izzo fucking tell us when he shit on the sideline.
Maybe he can do that game, the shit on the sideline game.
All right.
Izzo, Izzo, so the first ring party, Super Bowl ring party, Izzo Vrabel hammered.
Nice.
Hammered. And they're dipping Copenhagen, both of them, right? And they come up and we're talking, and Vrabel's contract's up, or he has another year. So Vrabel wants to talk contract while he's got some liquor in him. Izzo, but they're happy as all get out. And I have like a beige suit on and a pink shirt. And Izzo's kind of like a close talker when he's got booze in him. And we get done talking. I go back to my table, and my wife looks at me. She goes, "What is all over your shirt?" The 2 of them have been talking and spit and dip. Like, the little piece. I got Flex of Copenhagen I had to toss the shirt because that stuff stained. My wife's like, well, what were you just doing? Like, you crawling through the weeds or something?
Freaking Izzo.
Larry, he's awesome.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So that brings us to a first down play that NFL Rule 3, Section 22, Article 2, Note 2 comes into play and helps extend the drive. Leads to the Adam Vinatieri field goal that ties it up, sends it into OT.
It was triple slant, D slant. Trips right, triple slant, D slant.
Look at you, man.
Can you walk us through that moment?
Tommy, can we not see your teammate, your roommate?
He turns it. He's facing that way. He's coming right here. Maybe he had a snowflake in his eye.
Could have
But
been.
that's the young Tom Brady.
Young Tom Brady. He learned from that situation.
Can you walk us through that moment?
Yeah.
Special memory.
So
Are you and Ernie in the press box like, fuck, the game's over?
I was just like, when deflated isn't a strong enough word. I mean, I was like, it was just, I didn't know what to think. Ernie, we're just like, we didn't know.
Did Ernie jump on the rule right away?
He wasn't on the rule right away, but he was. He noticed the officials, right, and we're like, wait a second here, this might be a review. There's so many things that happen, like, and watching the TV copy triggered some things here. There's something about the music at Patriots games that is very unique, right? It's the same songs. You know, you're gonna hear Hell's Bells, you know, and
AC/DC.
yeah, absolutely.
Bon Jovi?
You're
Phil Collins.
in the air tonight. So, bingo. During that time when they're doing the review, they played In the Air Tonight. And I noticed it on the TV copy, and you can hear it on the TV
Did
copy.
you remember that?
Just like there's during moments like that, yeah, because there was a bunch of moments like that, and I was like, oh my God, look at me, I'm getting goosebumpy right now. and there was also another time when Hell's Bells came on the third down play. I mean, on the third down stop.
Yeah.
You're hearing the dong of Hell's Bells from AC/DC. It's but during that moment, I remember, oh my gosh, you didn't want to believe it was over. And I remembered what I remember at that moment was like looking up at the stadium and the snow, and it's coming down, and I was just like, no, God, no.
Yeah.
You know, and here they start reviewing, and it's overturned, or it's called the right way. Yep. It's called the right way.
It's in the rule book.
It's in the rule book. That was textbook rule book. And yeah, it went from like this want to throw up in your mouth moment to hopefulness.
I had a situation. It wasn't tuck rule, but you remember when we were playing the Chiefs in 18 and we threw the pick on the offsides? I didn't see the flag. So I'm down the field, and it was one of their I don't know who, I forgot who it was, but he's running by me on the Chiefs, and he goes, oh, it's going to be a hell of a lot off season for you guys, because that was game. I'm sitting there, and I was literally walking back thinking, this fucking off season going to suck. Fuck these motherfuckers. And then I saw that flag. I looked at him like, we got a flag. We got a flag, sir.
D Ford, here's the other thing, though. And again, talking
The
about
emotions of sport.
Oh my
right.
God.
Yeah,
Nothing
look,
like it.
This is exactly where I'm headed next. The emotion of sports. And in that moment, but here's, you know how I talked about this game has everything that is Patriots in it. It's situated for everything. Think about this. Brady's a kid. You go from that moment of that happening, our entire team, the entire offense goes to that moment. And then all of a sudden, there's a ruling. We still got to go back out there and try to tie this game and win this game.
Yeah.
You go from complete, utter, absolutely being deflated to euphoria to compartmentalize.
Yep.
We got a job to do. And to me, that was one of the cool things too, is how that football team refocused so quickly with their emotions.
I mean, that's been evident numerous times for the Patriots, I believe. Having the ability to compartmentalize when things are not looking good and refocusing on just doing your job. You know, that's like we did that. I'm not trying to bring it up to, you know, the Atlanta game,
No,
but that game.
absolutely.
In Seattle with my in 14, we're down 10 points in the fourth quarter. It's just like it says on that little page of yours, tough, smart football teams that can perform under pressure.
And discipline, right? And that's part of it. And it's funny. And you talk about that. I don't know if you saw the Dynasty.
Yeah, a little bit.
Part of what I talked about in the couple things I did was that moment when I was with the Falcons, and I talked about it from the Falcons standpoint. I was up in the press box, and it's halftime, and we're up. A couple things happen. Rodney Harrison texts me. He said, "Hey, Scott, Eric and I are leaving. Can't stand this anymore. So happy for you. So proud of you. Congratulations." I remember reading the text going, "Oh my God, no!" Rodney,
reverse jinx. Reverse jinx.
And I still have that text message. But then there was this moment in there too where we were in this suite, and it was a bunch of people in personnel department, football operations folks, because I had a different role at that point in time as the assistant GM. And someone slapped me on because I never get up out of my seat, and everyone is like enjoying eating snacks and chicken fingers, and someone slaps me on the back like, "Hey, would you enjoy this for once?" And I lost my crap. And I said to myself, I said, "You guys don't understand what we're up against." I said, "That guy number 12 is effing Freddy Krueger. He's coming back. I just hope he doesn't come back and get us all." And I was dead serious. And I know there were some people I was working with that thought I was a douche in that moment, but to the point, it was part of the mentality, Jules, that nothing seemed out of reach if you stayed disciplined, because teams will lose games, and it's
and especially at that point of Tom's career, where he's already had 28-point comebacks, and it may not have been in the Super Bowl, but if you have that under your belt, even if it's a regular season against the goddamn New Orleans Saints that had nothing to do in week 3, you felt it before.
Hey, I was at when we were the nationally televised night game against the Broncos, where we intentionally snapped the ball out of the end zone, took the safety, defense, "Hey, you got to get us 3 and out." And then Tommy brought us back in that one, which is where this game is kind of similar. We get the ball, we have to give it over. I think it's like 2:40 left in the game, and we got 3 timeouts in the fourth quarter. We got to get the ball back, and we got to score. So what happens is, the defense. Jack, you mentioned the third down, 3rd and 1, because the first run of that first play of that drive, they pick up 7.
Yeah.
Then they pick up 2. It's 3rd and 1. And again, I know Cox makes a hit because we bring in the goal line defense. Seymour takes out the fullback, John Ritchie, and then Zach Crockett runs into the back of him. We stop him, and then Cox hits him up high. 3 and out, we burn the timeouts. And then on that 3rd down play, we don't burn the timeout. Well, at the end of that play, if you look at the TV copy, there's like 6 guys running to the officials' timeout after every single snap. But the officials stopped the clock. So we still got 1 in the pocket, but then as soon as
measurement,
they do the measurement. Then as soon as that's over, boom, timeout.
Gives you so much more time to think on what the situation's next.
It was 2:19 left because at that moment we were still going to get the 2-minute for that 4th timeout.
It's 3.
So, again, once again, that was the team. It was the defense helping the offense 3 and out, and in those moments, you just never felt like you were out of it.
Never feel like you're out of it. And this game started that whole feeling for this organization. Like all the games that I was a part of was because of this game. That's how important this game was, because this was an example of everything that the coaching staff was preaching to the team, that a lot of the times, sometimes guys are like, "This never fucking happened." You're sitting up there in the auditorium. Games aren't lost. Special teams don't matter. Penalties don't. Fuck that. We just do. This game exemplified everything that you needed to do.
But, Julian, it wasn't just coaching.
Well, players got to make plays.
No, it was players. It was coaching, but it was an organizational, institutional, cultural thing that existed there. because that moment, being prepared for anything, everything, and being ready to execute, that happened 8 months earlier in the NFL draft when we were ready to make that Matt Light trade.
Yeah.
It was everything about this organization. That's what we were about. Everyone was dialed in. It was a way of life. So it was the coaches. Yeah, it was the head coach. Yeah, it was Ernie. It was the personnel department. It was
equipment staff.
It was
everyone.
It was Richard Miller being ready to help with the contracts. There was this institutional buy-in. But to your point, and I love what you're saying here, this validated all of the crazy. This validated all of the detail, all of the maniacal, borderline crazy stuff about every little thing mattering. Because again, it goes back to the Matt Light trade and being ready for that, being ready to, sign Ken Walter in November, being ready to
move on from your $100 million quarterback for this pipsqueak guy in the 6th round. How was that conversation? Week 8.
Come on, we're on a roll here. Don't kill. Come on. Quit bringing me over, man.
No. So Vinatieri goes out,
makes 2 of the greatest kicks in NFL history: 23-yarder and a 45-yarder. 45 and 23. Sorry.
Now, what's it feel like when he hits that second one? And we've seen the footage, how crazy the footing was. Just another day at the office for Vinatieri, like it's nothing. Like when that goes in, is that when were you guys like, we could win a fucking Super Bowl here? Because they were a huge
in that
they
moment,
were a favorite.
Oh yeah,
they were the favorite for the AFC.
Yeah, and I wasn't even thinking about the Super Bowl. Here's like some of the wild stuff that leads even up to that. First of all, the game tying field goal was one of the most emotional, singular emotional moments in my life.
Lost the game, snowball rule.
And we're looking, I'll never forget, Ernie, we're looking, there's the fog on the window. You're looking to the far right because the press box in those days, it wasn't at the 50-yard line. It was, because that's where those were the money-making suites. So we're at this vantage point of disadvantage. And the angle that we were watching, because the Foxborough Stadium, it was low. And the ball looks like it was on a straight line. And I swear, it looked like it went by the crossbar and dropped straight down. It looks like and so that was crazy. But then for the second field goal, the game winner, here's the other part that I remember distinctly, was the whole icing the kicker thing. And I don't even know if the TV game captures this, but Raiders call timeout. Gruden calls a timeout. And again, this is like, I'm like, trying not to get emotional talking about this, but it was one of those organic moments of our team. The timeout gets called. The linemen turn around, go back to where Kenny Walter is, and start clearing the snow. No one told them to do that. They knew Adam needed a place. It was like, here's a time. You talk about situation. They just all went to, they helped a guy clear the spot so he could kick the game winner. And again, I get emotional because, this is what this game is about, right? This is what football is about. It's about the community, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the whole, all of us together doing something so we can all
achieve
and be rewarded and have this lifetime thing together. And that's, that was one of those moments. It was, so even before the kick going in, it was just like, I don't know, man.
That's football.
That's ball.
That's football. That's why we signed up.
That's why we depend on one another. That's why you're trying to get this collection of people and you're trying to build this thing that is your family, that is your community, that is your, people you'll know for life.
That's why you watched all them tapes. That's why we lifted all them weights.
Yeah.
Darn right, baby.
That was my daughter's our daughter's quote in her senior yearbook. They have to have a quote. Of course, that's her father's line. She just wrote, "That's why we lift all them weights."
Oh my gosh.
That's such a
If that's not somebody that knows ball, I don't know what is.
Such a flex.
See, you married the game. You married the game.
That's right, baby. That's an all-time senior quote right there.
I got a little misty there for a second.
Hey,
golly.
Oh my gosh.
How do you not get the Moneyball quote? How do you not get emotional?
Amen. And the Patriots win 16-13. A dynasty is born.
Not yet.
Not yet.
On its way.
On its way.
On its way.
And go on to beat Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship game. Drew Bledsoe saves the day. And then
Now,
go on to
how
win
is
Super
that
Bowl
going into the
36.
Super Bowl aftermath? Drew Bledsoe plays 2 great quarters. What's the conversation like
He
going into
saves
the
the
Super Bowl?
season. He saves the season.
How do you go
But
back
again,
to the like
Again, team.
because you know,
in practice? It was
and you know Tommy's the guy. You know,
knew he was
and
the
you know,
guy.
and at that point he was the guy. But again, this goes back.
when
to
did he become
the
the guy?
collective? Ooh.
When did you know that he was the guy going forward? Was like
So here's the thing. Again, let's go retro to 2000, his rookie year. Again, people don't remember the details like some of us remember the details. Of our 53-man roster, and I think at that point in time there was only 4 practice squad players and bumped up to 5. But that year, there was a point in time where we had only 51 players on our 53-man roster. It was a combination of salary cap issues, and because we were close to the cap, we were mugged up against it. But the other thing was there were certain players, we were all in a certain way. And we said, we're not going to keep someone on the roster just to have a player on the roster. If they're not all in, so we actually had 52 players, 51 players at one point in time, but we kept 4 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, right? We had Bledsoe, we had John Freeze, Michael Bishop, and Tommy. And we knew we felt Tommy was developable. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Developable?
Yeah.
It is now.
It is.
I
I'm not a
wonder what
word guy.
that would get you in Scrabble, how many points that is.
Not a Scrabble guy.
Yeah, me neither.
Monopoly. I like Monopoly.
But he developed, and I remember thinking by 2001, he's our backup quarterback. Damon Heward, we have Damon Heward now. We had signed him in the offseason as a free agent. Then there were internal conversations that we felt, if and when the point comes, this guy might be our guy. Because the other thing about Drew was, you have to remember, we knew what his kryptonite was because we had been at the Jets the 3 previous seasons. And
What was his kryptonite?
pressure that he could see in his face between the guards. And again,
Traditional pocket passer.
But here's the thing is, and I have so much respect for Drew. I think the world of Drew and respect for him. And what had happened at that point in Drew's career, he had been hit literally in the mouth so many times from things that came up the middle, from
Eyes
pressure
come
up the
up.
middle. And
That means you don't look when that happens to a quarterback, you're not processing the play anymore. You're feeling the rush. And that half a millisecond, quarter millisecond, whatever it is, that's when the guy's open. So if you miss that, it doesn't matter how strong your arm is. That's what you get a case of that. I don't know if that, yeah.
And I used to get pissed off at people that would criticize Drew for that because that's a human being human.
Yeah. He got hit.
He got hit. And at some point in time, the key to being a quarterback is not just people, oh, he's smart. He's smart. Well, it doesn't matter how smart they are. You can, you go up on the grease board and X's and O's all day long and you've got time. But when you add in the element of the intensity of a game, the speed of the game, and getting punched in the mouth and can still make good decisions, it's about good decision making, not just being smart. And I'll tell you, man, Drew hung in that season, and that had to be tough. I can't imagine. I can't imagine
my
how
cap
tough
to
that was.
him.
And then to be ready,
Yeah.
and to win the AFC Championship game, man, and
Yeah.
just you talk about a soldier, about a warrior. My respect for Drew Bledsoe is tremendous.
I think Tom phrased it up the best. That was the Patriot way. It's the mental toughness, doing what's best for the team when it may not be best for you. And Tom said that at I think Brady Day about Drew. And it's a business. It's a crazy sport. There's only one quarterback, but that's how it goes sometimes.
So Drew had a hell of a career. He was a great quarterback.
Yeah, Drew made hell of
He's
money
like a
and
top
he's got great
30,
wine.
top 30 quarterback all time. Just happened.
Hey, he can
Tom
still-
Brady was behind him.
Hey, he can still
Still
throw.
spin it,
We
baby.
had him at the
How about
house.
the GM handshake? Oh my god,
He got big hands. Doesn't he have
Bledsoe?
not?
He's got huge, but I'll tell you what, number 12's got enormous hands. You know what you say? Hey,
I don't know.
you know what they say about big hands?
Big gloves.
Exactly.
Big gloves.
The thing is, when Tommy's holding a ball, though, and you look at still shots of him holding the ball, I'm convinced that's a big part of the reason for his accuracy in the weather and the elements that he played in so many times in his career.
Never phased him.
We drafted Cliff Kingsbury, and I remember Parcells said this to me. He goes, "Do you know how small his hands are?" Cliff Kingsbury had small hands, and it was, I don't know if it played into his ability to control the ball anyway.
So
Kenny Pickett,
small hands turn into a good coach.
Good coach. They say small hands. Good offense.
Good offense.
Kenny Pickett, Super Bowl winning coach in the next 20 years.
Can we go on to the aftermath of this, Jackie?
All right. The Patriots go on to win Super Bowl 36, beating the greatest show on turf. And
as Ernie likes to
dynasty
say,
was born.
his favorite line of that, a dynasty was born.
Yes. To quote the great Ernie Adams.
No, but he was quoting Adam, or was it Archuleta, or was it Ricky Prohl?
It was Ricky Prohl.
Said
Ricky
Dynasty
Prohl.
was born, and he's like,
And Ernie gave him the royal in your face, Ricky.
Gruden went to Tampa, won that. I also had one more thing. In this game planning, we didn't get into it. For Gruden, did Bill bring out a lot of the Giants 49ers tape because they probably had a lot of the similar schemes because Gruden was under Holmgren, with Walsh, and I think he was even with Niners with Seifer in 90.
I don't know specifically for that, but it's so funny. Interesting question, just from the standpoint where, part of Bill's leadership that I always thought was so important. Bill's a terrific listener.
Yeah, I say that, and
he knows how to and who to ask questions. And Ernie, as sometimes it'd be, "Hey, Ernie, and Ernie would, he would just come out. But the other person, I'll never forget this coming out of it was a staff meeting, and it was a personnel meeting, staff personnel with the coaching staff. And we're coming out of the meeting, and Bill and I are just standing in the hallway, and he's waiting for Pepper. And Pepper comes out, and he goes, "Hey, Pepper, remember the San Francisco game, 1980?" And in the third quarter, and Bill was trying to remember something. And Pepper Johnson, this is one of the things, I remember this too, where I understood the value of Pepper Johnson. He was a chemistry guy, but he was this recall guy also. Pepper just goes, "Oh yeah." And he spits out, "Oh yeah, it was a third quarter, 3rd and 7. He just makes up this, it's 3rd and whatever. We're on the right hash defensively." And he had the whole thing, and they were in 3-by-1 or 2-by-1. And he just repeated but he looked away from Bill, and it was almost like Rain Man-ish, Pepper Johnson. And he was just like, da-da-da-da. And I was like, but that was part of the, you bring up something like that. Did Bill not only had the tape and had his own recall, he had people around him that had recall. And Pepper was, I'll never forget that moment with Pepper out in the hallway thinking, wow. And Pepper remember what the call was, what the adjustment was.
I think I know that call because was it the
Oh, he's making this up now. Come on.
No, you got it, bro.
Was it a trap play, a double trap play where he wanted to show Banks or LT blowing up what you had to do to the trap guy? Because if
it was an adjustment call, Bill wanted to know what the adjustment was that we made when they motioned something.
Okay.
And it was
Bill's used a lot of those old, a lot of these plays, the game has evolved, but a lot of some of these route run plays and stuff, they've been running since the 80s. It's the same shit.
And here's a funny thing too, because I remember early on, Bill used to show the linebackers, talk about the linebackers, and then show like Giants film.
Yeah.
And I remember Vrabel came out one time to practice dressed in Giants gear. They're just like, "Are you effing happy now?" Because Vrabel could do stuff, and Vrabel more than anybody pushed across the line where it got uncomfortable sometimes. Like, Vrabes might have gone too far that time, right? Vrabel's one of a kind that way. He did it with Tommy
all the time.
But he did it with Bill sometimes. Like, you may not have wanted to go there.
He's a vicious Matt Light.
That's
because Matt Light will get you uncomfortable in a jokingly fun way. Vrabel will just go through your throat. He'll fucking come straight for your throat. He'll talk about anything, any means necessary, wife, kids, fucking mom, dad. He doesn't care. Vrabel,
and then no remorse afterwards.
zero. What? Guys, it's football. It's fucking football. Gross sack.
Oh my gosh.
But that's part, and that's the thing is he would do things and say things. And here's the thing. I remember talking when Vrabel was coming out, and getting to know a little bit. You know who his college roommate was? Luke Fickell.
Yeah.
And Luke was like this epic wrestler, but Vrabel was. So there were these stories when you talk to the people at Ohio State. There were these epic stories of wrestling matches and fights that Vrabel, like two brothers, would have. Where they're like destroying dorm rooms and to the death.
Oh my God.
But that's Vrabel.
That's full Vrabel.
Yeah.
Fucking Braves. We got to get him on here.
Got to. Oh my gosh.
Let's name the game.
Oh,
We know this one. We know this one.
It's not the tuck roll game.
No.
It's the snowball game.
it is the snowball game.
Is this the greatest game of all time? Let's score it. Stakes 0 to 10. 10 being the
stakes?
highest.
10, because if not, the season's over.
Season's over. I'm going to go 9. It's divisional round.
I feel that. that.
Okay.
Jack has an 8.9. I have an 8.7.
I just broke a rule, actually. Jules,
What's the rule?
thank you. In our grading scale, there's no hyperbole, right?
There's no hyperbole.
And I went 10 right out of the gate. That was emotion right there.
You can't make an emotional decision.
No, and I just did. This shows you how long I've been out of the game.
Hey, you don't use it, you lose it. Remember that, listener?
Oh, I suck.
Hey, hold on. Do you want another take at it? Because everyone comes 10s. I usually say 10, and then we just move on. But
No, I just think I needed to say that out loud as kind of therapy.
Yeah.
Totally.
But now if I go where Jules is going here, then I look like that scout who's, well, Julian said 9. I'm going with a 9. No, so I'm sticking with my 10.
He's sticking
Okay.
with
I
his
like
10.
it. I like
did I
it,
say
baby.
Jack had an 8.9. I had an 8.7.
Star power 0 to 10 decimals. Okay.
Well, are we talking which teams?
All everywhere.
I mean, I think they've got
The greatest receiver
4 Hall of
time.
Famers on their roster in that game, I want to say.
Tim Brown,
got,
Jerry Rice,
Law.
Richard Seymour's
wait,
out
is
there.
Eric Allen in though?
I don't believe so.
No, all right. So he'll be. How
Al
many
Davis
Pro Bowls
is
did
still
he make?
alive too. Yeah.
Al Davis is still.
He's still at the helm.
So
here.
we're talking. There's a bunch of Hall of Famers.
John Gruden was a great coach.
Great coach, John Gruden. Then look at the Patriots, right? Ty Law, Richard Seymour.
Vinatieri
This guy Tom Brady.
Vinatieri's going to be there. Oh,
Vinatieri.
Yeah. You think Brady will get in?
I think maybe if he plays his cards right.
Bill. I mean, Bill might be in next year based on
Yeah,
this
they
new
changed the
rule.
rule.
Wow,
How about
yeah.
that? So star power. I'm going to go 9.
9.
Solid, very solid.
I couldn't go.
That's it. I'm gonna go 8.9.
Respectable.
Nah, it's a 9.1.
9.1.
Also, this is second year Brady too.
So here, by the way, so I'm going to talk a little scouting grade. We had a scout on the staff. Jake Hallam at the time was old school OG, and Jake was a great scout. Just had experience, but he would give a guy a grade and try to put in a decimal point, and it's whole numbers. None of this 9.2 stuff. And I go, Jake, do you like the guy or not? And he go, I like him, and he's a real country. I like him, but I don't like him. So really, he would talk like, or a little less like, he would say. So can we go whole numbers here, guys? I mean, I'm going to make, never mind.
You can go
you
whole
can go
number.
whole numbers.
For the next, I'm going whole numbers.
because
Okay.
a 92% is different than a 90% in scaling of a grade. So if that's an A minus, that's a straight A.
I was never in that stratosphere.
Neither was I.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I always looked at them.
I had an 8.4.
My friends did.
9.1 from Jack.
I gotta say, I like Scott's approach to this scoring. We're getting some good insight into scouting
He
too
likes
here.
right there.
I like him.
Gameplay.
Oh my gosh!
Let's go.
And the scouts are there. If the scouts that were there hear that, they're gonna laugh their butts off because they know Jake. God rest his soul. He was the best.
Let's go, Jake. Gameplay 0 to 10.
Gameplay. Give me a definition.
Like how the game went back and forth for the
Overtime,
viewer.
Last second field goal.
Entertainment
second-
value.
Entertainment value.
How enjoyable was it to watch?
I think when you win, you think it's great. But even that, so I'm an emotional guy. I'm a sucker. I love that it was snow. I love that it was grass. I love that it was a low scoring game. I know you're an offensive guy, but I love
Defense mattered.
I'm going 9 again, man.
Nine.
All the guys
Love
I
it.
worked with that were scouts are like, they want to choke me out right now because I'm giving such high grades.
I'm a offensive guy, so I got to go with there's a bunch of fumbles and there's some bad, there's a
Couple months
loose, couple muffs,
And you're a teamer.
a teamer.
Controversial call. You never like the refs getting in the mix.
I'm going to go with the 7.8.
Ooh, that's
So you're
spicy.
going on the quality of play when you're saying because of the fumbles. See, I wasn't looking
That
through
and
that
also
lens.
scoring. I mean, it's a great gameplay. This is, I mean, we're still
great
talking
gameplay.
to it.
Yeah.
We're talking about it 22 years, and it's not
Amen.
even a Super Bowl.
Gave it an 8.4.
I might have
I
to
had a
take this and
9.2.
give this the Ernie Adams. I might need to go through this and redefine some of this for
We
our
would be
new
honored.
scouting report here.
We should.
would be
We should-
honored.
It does need a revamp.
We need
do
a revamp.
rescoring special every 50 episodes.
And if you're going to do a binder, please keep it MLA format. Thank you. The name of the game, the Snowball.
I wish we worked together about it. I wish we were there at the
Seriously.
same time.
See, I was the guy that, like, me and Ernie became close because I would see Ernie every day by himself eating a goddamn tomato. And I was just curious. And I went up to him like, hey, how's that tomato? And then it just became a thing where I would just joke with him. And then he'd give me nuggets. He'd be like, look at this punter. You gotta want, And he'd give me some nuggets. And information's always good.
Would he bring you a tomato on your birthday?
No, he never brought me a tomato. We weren't there.
Not yet. You may get something in the mail this year.
He did
Ernie
give
is a
me-
sweet human being.
Ernie brought me a beautiful, when he came and did our show, he brought me unbelievable book bag full of 3 books for my daughter, Matilda. What was the other one?
Right?
Secret Garden, like these beautiful books from the Cambridge bookstore. I mean,
Brookline.
Brookline. Was it Brookline?
Yeah.
Brookline bookstore? Yeah, it was spectacular.
That's Ernie, and that's the side. See, those of us we that know Ernie's
Definitely. I mean, he's a sweet guy. He outkicked his coverage with his wife.
Oh, Christine, absolutely.
Christine, I mean,
I love Ernie, but Ernie, you don't deserve that. Christine is.
The name of this game also is the cultural impact of this. So we're talking about it, 3 years later.
I'm going 10. I don't even have to. I mean, but as long as
Start
we
of the
call it the
Dynasty.
right name, the Snowball.
Snowball
Yes.
game.
I'm going with a 8.9.
I knew you would.
He's a Raiders
9,
fan.
8.9, 8.9.
9.5.
I had a 9.4.
Scott, you got to think about it though, man. Like it's kind of like when you go get a burger.
Oh, I know getting burgers.
But when you grade a burger, there's no such thing as a perfect burger. There's no such thing. There's never been a 10 burger. There could be a 9.8. There could be a 9. But it's kind of like surfing a wave. You may have got the biggest wave of all time, but it's not the next wave.
It's kind of like Tommy says, hey, Tommy, what's your favorite ring?
The next
next one. Scott, what's your favorite burger? The next one.
Exactly.
I mean,
God, I could go for a
Goes
burger
into the
right
scoring.
now.
No, the final score is 9.03.
What does that stack up? This is gonna be
Oh,
high.
boy.
This
High,
is
high, high.
number 4.
see, I feel like
Nice.
Number 4 all time
all
of all our
time
games.
of the games we've covered.
So it's right ahead of the 2004 ALCS Game 4 Yankees Red Sox and the 1999 Women's World Cup, China versus the United States, and just below the Malcolm Butler game, the Dynasty 2.0
All
we
right.
call it, the Super Bowl, 49, Seattle versus Patriots.
I
Right in
love
there.
that the 1999 Women's World Cup Finals. I remember
Top five.
watching that game.
We all did.
Great Rose Bowl game.
Yeah.
Oh, and if I was grading with my, here's the part of the problem, and this is why working with good people sometimes I overgraded things.
Well, that's why we get the average of all of ours together.
which is good. You guys kind of
It's like
brought
a
me.
40 time when you go to the combine. You got 5 scouts on it. You
Right.
get the electronic.
We
you
used
get
to
this
be
guy, and you
real
get the
bad.
average.
We used to be real bad. Everything had 10s, like wrestling matches were first overall. We changed the scoring, so we add so we can help adjust
You guys talk
it.
wrestling on this show?
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
we've had Becky Lynch on for WrestleMania
Shawn Michaels?
35
Shawn
and Shawn
Michaels.
Michaels.
Yeah.
on.
See, I'm a different. I'm Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
Hulkamania.
Love Hulk.
But Rowdy Roddy Piper had one of the greatest lines. Piper's Pit. You guys ever watch the old versions of Piper's Pit? There's one. He has one of the greatest lines of all time that I still use. Say, it's just when you think you know the answer, I change the question.
That's how Jules is
That's
as an
all time.
interviewer.
That's how I am.
That's how you're always right. My dad used to do that. That's why he was always right.
Top 5 game. Top 5 game.
Top
we're gonna
five,
get
baby.
so much heat that our top 4 games are all Patriots games. We gotta diversify.
Well, here's the thing: is I was going to say about this. One of my concerns is this recency bias.
Yes,
There's
100%.
for sure.
and
There's
again,
definitely recency bias.
but that's why I wanted to bring some of that other stuff in there.
Like,
This game that like the beginning of the Patriots and what the truth of the beginning of the Patriots thing was.
but the first game is kind of the end of the Patriots, so it was kind of like the bow on the end of the
That's
gift.
true. Wow.
So they're both top 5. We need to have someone come in and try to change that. So all you guests out there that are anti-Pats, have someone else from another team that has some importance that have gotten in the same level of what this is.
Just
Potentially,
saying.
we could see that here with the Chiefs.
Get some good games.
Yeah.
We could see that.
Are you going fishing for Travis Kelce right now?
I want Travis Kelce.
He'd be a great guest.
He's
I
all
mean,
up
he's
in
got.
Instagram.
I've gone on
He would
his.
be
I was
Killer
DMing with
Trav,
him the
baby.
other day on our channel.
Huh?
You was DMing with him on our.
I know. He's always
Flex.
cool. He's cool.
He's so cool.
He's
Smooth,
cool.
smooth.
what celebrities have you guys had on?
Go back. Let's
Are they
see.
in here?
Like
we had
had,
Ed O'Neill, which was he played
Oh,
for the Steelers
yeah, I
for a
did
cup
see-
of
yeah.
coffee. We had Eric Stone Street.
Stone
Mark
Street
Cuban.
was good.
Stone Street,
Cuban.
outstanding.
Yeah,
Stone
Mark
Street, Heidi
Cuban.
Gardner.
That's another show, by the way, that I've seen now since I retired. Modern
Modern
Family was
Family.
funny.
You should really check out The Simpsons. The Simpsons is great too. You might have missed that one.
Mangini was a huge Simpsons guy. He was a huge.
Are we allowed to
Simpsons-
use his name?
Oh, we didn't even talk about the drive.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we gotta
We're
do
all
another
human,
episode.
Jules.
We got to do another episode.
I mean, you're Italian though. I know. I thought we would know something. Would you? Is a family business? It stays in the family business.
Yeah, I'm very Italian, and anyway,
When you're here, you're family.
What's this?
That's Olive Garden.
you don't even.
Casey Affleck. Casey Affleck.
Shout out Gordon Restaurant.
We had
How
Casey
did I do
Affleck.
Casey
Yeah.
Affleck?
Casey
Oh,
Affleck
he
just
was
on the
great.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, how did
He
we
used to
forget
sell
Casey?
he used to sell sausages outside of Fenway as a kid.
You know who made those sausages? Bianco and Sons from Revere.
Let's go.
Joey Bianco. We have Sausage Fest at our house every summer on Nantucket.
That sounds like Jake's
I-
on
I
a
might
Friday.
have to
Or
send
that
you
sounds
a-
like Jack's on a Friday night.
Hey, no diddy, no diddy, no diddy. No diddy. Me and the boys.
a Sausage Fest T-shirt. But Bianco and Sons. So Joey Bianco is cousins of my college teammate and roommate Ralphie Marchand from Everett, the Everett boys. And we should ask Casey if he sold Bianco sausage or some.
Let's
You know,
hope he did
some
because
knockoff.
of what he said.
We got to hit him back
Yeah,
up.
knockoff
we-
brand.
yeah, we-
Can I
He's
tell
the
you,
man.
Casey, that Dunkin' Donuts commercial from Saturday Night Live?
oh my
it's the
God.
best
The
Boston
Vanilla
thing.
Nut Taps is
Smoking
the
this-
best.
Yeah, it's the best.
Smoking
Boston
this
all
thing.
cigarette
time.
outside the thing because it's freezing.
You think you're better than me?
Yo, go see
That
the
is what
Instigators.
Go see Instagram.
Go see Instigators. Casey's
saw it
awesome.
already.
Is very good.
Incredible.
It's
It's fun.
Great movie. So fun.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a cool dude too. You know, he's when you mess with these actors, they're all actors are different. They gotta play other people, but he's like a regular dude that's an actor.
How about Matt Damon? Have you guys had Matt?
Yeah, we haven't had him on yet.
I
but
wish.
we're gonna get him here soon.
One
Hey,
day.
that's
Casey's
when
on
I
it for
watched
us.
Martian. Have you guys seen the movie?
Oh,
Great
yeah.
movie.
Great movie, underrated. But to me, Martian and that last part that he talks about is the Patriots. Just do the math. You figure it out and you just try to get to the next play the next day. He doesn't say that, but that's what the whole March thing is. You're just trying to do enough to get to the next.
I could watch a whole movie, just the whole movie of him growing potatoes. I call it
So
confidence
Matt
porn.
Damon-
It's the type of movies I love.
if-
Moneyball.
If Matt
Spotlight,
Damon is watching
Martian.
this,
Oh,
you're pretty much the root of the Patriots. So why don't you come on and discuss
oh,
it?
Matt,
Get on
Clip
here,
that.
Dudley.
Clip
Do
that.
right.
We're going
that
fishing.
movie.
The Martian, basically the
Good Will
Patriots.
Hunting is still probably my all-time.
Love Good Will Hunting.
Oh,
All timer.
It's not your
all-
fault.
Casey Affleck. There you go.
Scott, we missed anything? We got to have you come on because this was so fun. You got to come on and do another game. And
Browns game.
I feel like we've missed so much. This is going to turn out to be an unbelievable episode. People are going to love this episode.
I hope so.
Instant classic.
Instant
a Browns
classic.
game. A Browns game. We need it so bad. I want to do a
But-
Browns game.
Once again, everyone get ready. The NWSL Boston team.
Yeah, NWSL.
We got a
Boston.
name coming soon.
We got a name coming soon, and truly thank you to.
Get out of here, man. It's
No.
crazy that we'll finish it with this.
You're coming to a game. We're going to a game.
I'm there. I'll bring my daughter.
We'll give you a shirt that has the team name on it too. Once we get that out there.
Perfect. But this goes to the point, and to toot your horn one more time before you leave. I never got to play with you, but your work that you did through your career in New England, like I knew about it and I felt it even 10 years, whatever, how many years past I was in it. So the impact that you had on the organization and to the pivotal game that we went over in this divisional round against the Raiders, the Snow Bowl game, it's been felt throughout the whole organization through that whole 22 years that we were, at the top. So
I appreciate it. I mean that sincerely.
No, we really, I mean that too. And it was so awesome to have you come on here and explain the stories and give us the nitty gritty insides and outs of what the Patriots think about, when it goes into drafting, when it goes into the scenes behind the scenes. That's something that our listeners, they really enjoy, and this is going to be a very fun episode. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Appreciate the words. That it means a lot.
I'm choking up over here with that.
Me too,
This
man.
is awesome.
No, I'm serious, because one of the things I used to tell my wife was, and again, I'm not trying to be corny here, is there was players after I left, I would say, he could have been one of us. I used to say about that. You were, but you were that second half. I was like, you could have been a part of that first decade, without a doubt.
I appreciate that. I mean,
For sure.
That means a lot, because I remember being the kid wanting to be that guy when I first got in there. And then you're seeing Teddy Bruschi, Kevin Falk, Troy Brown, Tom Brady, Vrabel.
Next time we come,
Willie Mack.
We'll talk about, because this is part. See, and you mentioned that and this is for the next show, but it's about that team. That locker room was built on having a larger number of selfless leaders than other teams. It was Anthony Pleasant, who was in his 12th, 13th, 14th year when we drafted Jarvis Green, Richard Seymour,
Legends.
Ty Warren, and him teaching those guys how to take his job. That crap's rare.
Yeah.
Right? It's Troy Brown sticking around for an extra year and teaching people how to take his job.
Welker.
No, but there were selfless leaders in there. It was Teddy Bruschi teaching Jerod Mayo how to become the Mike linebacker.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because you ultimately want to win, and that gives you your best shot.
And that's legacy stuff, man.
That's legacy stuff.
And that's real legacy stuff. Not
I'm just glad you weren't around to think, because I was a crazy asshole in that building.
But there were different personalities. I mean, Ty Law had a different personality. There were Vrabel. I mean, what I understood, you were kind of like, this is dating me again, you were a little Eddie Haskell-ish.
Dennis the Menace.
Right. Dennis the Menace. Yeah. But again, that's needed.
Hey,
when you're building a
Lovely
team,
dress, Miss Cleaver.
But you need different. But here's the thing: is they want the successful teams weren't robots, right? We talked about people being in, but you can have different personalities. Look at how different mine and Bill's personalities are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Ernie, I mean, and Charlie Weiss and Romeo. There's a guy we didn't talk about enough. Romeo Crennel.
RC.
My gosh.
For the Browns episode.
Man, I feel like we talked about so much and we forgot so much almost, because he's a wealth of just stories, information, and he can compute it to verbal.
Incredible interview. He might be my new favorite person. We're already talking about doing another episode.
Yeah.
You think I'm a Glazer, bro? You were a Glazer.
I was full Jackie Glazy.
Oh my god.
It'd be good to
full
get
Jackie
his,
Glaze.
because it would also be really good. I want to hit him when he was with the Browns and then also the Chiefs, in Atlanta.
We didn't talk about the Chiefs at all. Yeah, and he was GM there for 4 years?
Yeah. So
We talked about the Falcons, though.
We did talk about the Falcons.
he got
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
All right, let's keep this today. This is such a long episode.
We got about
but
1,000 questions we got to ask him when he comes on next time.
Oh, that was
Scott was
incredible.
the man.
That was
awesome.
awesome.
So fun.
Great episode.
Great episode.
Well, what a game. What a guest. Thanks again to Scott Pioli. And everyone go check out the new Boston
Professional soccer team.
NWSL, baby.
NWSL.
I wonder what they're going to be. I wanted to ask him, how hard is it to name
That's got to be hard.
Pro sports franchise.
I mean, I bet you nowadays they do so many different they probably do polls. Do they have like people that come in?
I'm sure they have some agency.
Agency.
Some special, something that does the metrics and all this.
What's a good name for a Boston girls soccer team, a women's soccer team? Something. Oh, the Boston Tea Parties. They like. No, maybe misogynistic. Am I canceled?
I always like what the WNBA used to do, where they're like women's teams were like similar to the men's teams. They are like a little like homage, like the Rockets
Revolution.
in the comments.
So the
Lady Revs.
Nor'easters would be a great name.
The Nor'easters.
I want it. I bet they.
What are you, a storm?
Yeah, right.
Tight. It could be a hurricane. Nor'easter.
No, it can't be a hurricane. Yeah.
I wonder if they go the alliteration route too. I feel like a lot of, you know what I mean?
The
Boston
New England
Breakers,
perfect storm, and just have like Wahlberg and Clooney. Nah, that probably doesn't work.
I guess they are leaning into Boston though instead of New England. Will it be? I guess it will be Boston.
Well, we're gonna find out.
I just hope
on
they don't
part
go,
3 of this episode.
Just don't go full. We want to be English and try to name it like
too
AFC,
revolutionary.
or like
it's gonna be
football club.
No, I love
something.
when they do that.
I like the FC stuff. No,
it's lame.
It's novelty in America.
Yeah, but we don't even say football.
The Washington
in America.
football
It's stupid.
Yeah,
we do
but
classic naming conventions.
the Washington football
City
team was the best
nickname.
or the best team they had since the R words. Washington football team was pretty cool.
I still like it.
Eh.
All right, what an episode! What an episode!
What an
Hour
episode!
7.
That's been another episode of Games with Names. Jackie's not happy about that.
Oh, I'm so happy, baby.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Comment a game you want us to do, and remember,
Rate and review.
Really
That's a
do the
happy-
reviews. The reviews are good for us. Help us out
reviews
with
have
the
been
reviews.
awesome. Remember to follow Games with Names on YouTube, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Snapchat. Leave a message on the hotline. Those have been awesome. 424-291-2290. We will see you guys next week. Games with Names is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.